Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on this Reaction Monday, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Lots to react to today. The U.S. getting ready to face Belgium tonight for a spot in the World Cup quarterfinals. But first, Parker, how was your 4th of July weekend?
It was great. Got to spend some time with family. Got to eat a lot of hot dogs. I will not disclose the number, but was
it more or less than Joey Chestnut?
It was slightly less,
all right.
But still a lofty amount. It was good. I did tell the story, and I'll tell it once again. Had a run-in with a deer on Saturday night. My parents kind of live a little bit out in the country, going down a narrow road, was leaving their neighborhood, and a deer at the very last second, decides to run into the front of my car. We hit the deer. It kind of flies up in the air, goes off into the ditch on the right side. The crazy part is we kept moving. We didn't ever stop the car. And if we did stop the car, there's a chance that the deer could have landed back on top of the hood and the damage could be much worse. Nobody was hurt. That's the good thing.
Right.
But watch for deer.
Yeah.
If you are not in the city of Nashville and you're on the outskirts, watch for deer.
No,
they're everywhere.
That's horrible. I mean, obviously not the way you want to end your 4th of July. And, obviously, yes, best case scenario, no one got hurt except for the deer. But
there's a good chance that thing died.
Yeah.
On the side of the road.
Glad that you are okay. My dad had a similar situation where a deer just ran right into the front of his car, almost totaled it. I think it was just like barely, like they were able to fix it.
Yeah.
Always when you deal with car stuff, like it's the worst.
So if you see the front of my car outside of the station, just know I didn't get in an accident, but the deer, I mean, those things can cause some damage.
Yeah, they can.
And it was a doe too. It wasn't a buck. A buck could have been much worse.
Yeah, that's true. You get the antlers through the windshield or something like that.
People have died from that.
Yeah, no, that is it's scary, and glad that you guys are okay. I spent the weekend down in Florida with my in-laws. Did a little bit of fishing out there, which was fun. I'm not a huge fisherman. Like my expensive hobby is golf, but my wife's stepdad is a huge fisherman. Like loves to go
deep sea fishing.
Yeah, offshore, but like he likes to go out into the ocean and we did about everything you could possibly do fishing wise. We were trolling. We were looking. It was fun. I caught one fish. I did.
Hey, that is better than what I've done.
It took everything out of me though. It was pretty big. It was a bonita fish.
Okay.
It disappointed me that no one understood my reference when I said, "Are bonita fish big?"
Good reference.
It ruined the conversation, if not the entire evening.
Because if you have to explain it, it's just not funny.
Right,
anymore.
Exactly. So 615-737-1025 is the phone number. So hope everybody else had a great 4th of July weekend. Always fun celebrating. And especially even more so with it being America 250. We've got an immediate text from New York Doug, which when New York
immediate.
Doug. Oh, wow. Okay, so he said, rip up the production notes and check this out. It is Jackson Dart throwing a football off the boat and hitting somebody on a jet ski.
I did see that. See, it was a beautiful throw, but I was more concerned about where he was because it looked like he was somewhere in the Middle East.
It's like a desert. Maybe this is out in like Arizona, New Mexico. I don't know where they have like those. It's like an oasis out there. But thank you for that, New York Doug. I can say I haven't seen Cam Ward make that throw, so that's 1 point for Jackson Dart above.
It was a very, very good throw.
Throwing it
off.
And I
watched the video more than once.
Hitting a guy on a jet ski.
Yeah.
There you go. The soccer has been phenomenal, Parker, over the last few days. I mean, I heard Big Joe talking about it, about how like he's only into it for the US. And it's like, I kind of feel the same thing of like, I've only really been locked in for the US, but this weekend I watched a ton of soccer and man, some of these games have just been phenomenal. Back on Friday, Cape Verde and Argentina. The little engine that could Cape Verde, I really thought was going to pull it off.
The little island that could, as Bustle with the Boys put out. No, I looked at my wife last night. I was watching Mexico, England, and I looked at her and I'm like, I've probably watched 4 or 5 soccer games just this weekend alone, which is probably more than my entire life
Right.
combined. And
Yeah.
I looked at her and I said, who have I become?
Right.
But hey, like I may, try to check out another league once this World Cup is over. Soccer's fun,
See,
dude.
it has been fun. I don't know if I'm going to go that far. I probably will.
See, I might watch a couple like big games in the Premier or something because
Yeah,
that seems to be the league that everyone talks about, or La Liga,
the Champions League,
Yeah.
when it rolls around. Yeah, like I have enjoyed it much more than I expected to. The games yesterday were fantastic. Brazil and Norway. Norway gets the save on the penalty in the first half, and then Erling Haaland is just inevitable with 2 goals late in the final 10 minutes. And then the game last night, maybe the game of the tournament so far, England and Mexico, just a raucous environment down at the Azteca. And
you knew it would be too.
Jude Bellingham scores twice in 2 minutes to put England up 2-0. Mexico answers right back, makes it 2-1. You get a red card, which that looked more like the definition of a red card for me for England. And they had to play a man down for the last 30 minutes. They get the penalty. Harry Kane finishes. Mexico did everything they could. If it wasn't for one of their players having to be like scraped off the turf next to the goal at the end, and they were playing 10-on-10, they might have had a chance to equalize there at the end. That was an electric game from start to finish, and England ends up pulling it out 3-2.
It honestly felt like Mexico should have had at least another goal, because you think about that spot they were in before the half when they were down, 2-1, and they were just flooding England's goal. England's goalkeeper, I don't know if it's the same term that they use in hockey, stood on his head.
Yeah, sure, you can say that. Stood on his
head.
Oh
my gosh, some of those saves were ridiculous.
Yeah, the one early where he dove to his left and knocked it away was great, but the best one was, he like covered all the way to the top right corner.
Dude.
On one. It was a really impressive game, and England
It was
moves
awesome.
on. I'm
Incredible.
excited for England-Norway. You get Harry Kane and Erling Haaland against each other coming
up. The Viking.
Yes, the Viking. Him leading the row after the game was awesome yesterday after beating Brazil. Brazil, 5-time World Cup champion, now out. So we've got 2 of the quarterfinals set at this point. Why am I blanking on the first one?
Morocco and France.
Morocco and France, and now it's Norway and England. Today, we get the 2 in the U.S. quadrant of the bracket. Portugal, Spain is coming up at 2 o'clock.
Which will be really fun.
That's going to be a really fun game. Lamine Yamal and Cristiano Ronaldo facing off. And then, of course, the U.S. taking on Belgium tonight. And as of now, Flo Balogun going to be in the lineup. We'll get into that coming up next. That's been the story of the weekend. Flo Balogun had his red card suspended, and he is, as of now, eligible to play. Belgium trying to appeal that. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Matthew in Nashville on the text line makes a good point about the Jackson dart throw. The New York Giants don't exactly have the best history with boats. If you remember back to was that 2016 when they took the picture on the boat and then went and lost to the Packers the next week in the playoffs or something like that?
Yeah.
That sounds right. 16,
right.
17, somewhere in there.
I also saw a graphic that Erling Haaland has more playoff wins in MetLife than the Jets. And they're tied for the same amount as the Giants.
Yeah. That is impressive.
So if we're just ripping on the Giants today.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Pile on.
Sorry, New York, Doug. Matthew in Nashville says, where were you guys yesterday when you found about Balogun's red card being overturned? I was shocked. I didn't get a text about it for 15 minutes. Usually, like my friends from college, if there's breaking sports news, that's like my Adam Schefter. That's my Ian Rappaport. Is one of my friends is going to text in our group chat, this happened. And it took a while. I saw it probably 15 minutes after the Athletic story came out, but everybody's fired up. To get Balogun back for tonight's game against Belgium, we'll dive deeper into how it happened and if it's going to stand. But obviously, great news yesterday that it looks like the U.S. striker going to be available tonight as the U.S. tries to reach the quarterfinals of the World Cup for the first time since 2002. 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, it's a Reaction Monday. We've got lots to get to today. We'll start with the World Cup. We'll talk some Preds later on in the show as well. The offseason not over, but a lot of the big moves have been made for Chris McFarland and company. We'll talk some Titans and much more throughout the show today. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. We are off and running. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Getting you ready for tonight's showdown, the U.S. and Belgium, a rematch of the 2014 round of 16 match. The U.S. fell in that one, trying to move on to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002, where they would face the winner of Portugal and Spain. That game coming up at 2 o'clock today. The U.S. kicks off at 7 Central. And the big news of the weekend, of course, Flo Balogun. Yesterday, after it looked like he was going to be suspended because of the red card that he was shown against Bosnia and Herzegovina on Wednesday, it has been suspended. So he is going to be eligible to play. I believe he's on a 1-year probation is the way that they've put it. So if he gets another red card, then that suspension will be added on. So has to be careful. You know, don't get yourself in any tough situations. But Flo Balogun, as of now, going to be eligible to play. Parker, what was your initial reaction when you saw this news that he was going to be out on the field?
So I was leaving church and I got the notification on my phone and I was having a conversation. Mid-conversation, I just go, dude, Flo Balogun's eligible tomorrow. And what? How's this possible? I'm like, I didn't know. I guess that he got the red card reversed. FIFA reversed the red card. I was shocked. But I was really happy. I didn't do too much digging into it afterwards. I'm like, I don't care. He's playing tomorrow. And I was going to pick the U.S. to beat Belgium even without Flo Balogun. But now that he's eligible to play, at least for right now, I'm 100% taking the U.S.
Yeah, I think without Flo Balogun, I think this was pretty close to a 50-50 game. It was going to be one of those games that's one on the margin, who can make the play at the right time to win the game. I do think Flo Balogun gives the U.S. An edge. I would say call it 60-40 for the U.S. now. Belgium and UEFA are appealing this, saying that it's ridiculous that this is being overturned. And, there's a lot of talk about how this happened. Apparently, Donald Trump made a call directly to FIFA to try and get Flo Balogun's suspension overturned. The process is obviously not great. And it begs the question of where's the line? I heard the England manager say this after the game yesterday because one of his players got a red card. And you have to ask the question, where's the line? Can Harry Kane call Donald Trump and say, hey, can you get our guys' suspension overturned? Like, I don't.
Has soccer become college football?
Right.
We're just going to start suing?
Yeah. The European mind has not seen the.
You don't know anything yet.
These Charles Bediako situations. And
just
Brendan
wait until
Sorsby.
A player starts betting on his own team in the La Liga.
And so the process obviously is not ideal because where are the boundaries? How do you know whether one should be overturned or not? But I do think the result is right because it was a bad call. And the ref did use the slow motion replay in a way that he wasn't supposed to on VAR to make that call. So I think there is grounds for this being overturned. I don't know what the process was like to get to this result, but I do think that what matters is the result is right. Flo Balogun, it was enough punishment for Flo and for the U.S. for him not to play in those final 30 minutes of the game against Bosnia and Herzegovina. He should not be suspended for this game. I understand people might have questions about how this happened, but the result is the right result, and I think that's what everybody should be focused on right now.
Yeah, because, just doing some digging into FIFA as a whole, I mean, they are corrupt. We're not going to dismiss that.
It's not exactly the cleanest organization in sports.
But in all fairness, this red card, everybody knew, regardless if you were a fan of USA or not, that it was accidental, right? So the red card never should have been handed out. And the fact that they had to play a man down for, like you said, the last 30 minutes of the game was punishment enough. So it's ultimately the right decision, despite how they may have gotten there. We're not going to know all the details. Despite how they may have gotten there, this is the right call ultimately.
I think you look at last night's red card for England and you say that's what they were saying Flo Balogun did, was dangerous challenge. He went in spikes high, and when you looked at it, it didn't look like he was going after the ball. He grazed the ball with his calf, but he was going spikes high right into the shin. Like, I understand that being called a red card because it was dangerous. With the Flo Balogun one, he was taking a pass from his teammate, and it was just an unfortunate sequence of events where him and the Bosnian player got tangled up and his foot came down in an awkward spot where it twisted his ankle. It was completely inadvertent. I wouldn't say it was a dangerous challenge. It was just a play where two guys got tangled up. So this is the right result. With England, I think you saw that's what a dangerous challenge looks like, and that's why he got the red card.
Well, it was when the goalkeeper came out, right? Or was that a different?
No, that was the penalty that they gave.
Yeah.
The England one, it was, I'm blanking on the guy's name, and I don't even know if I could pronounce it, but he slid in and foot was high.
I know what you're talking about.
The shin of the Mexican player, and it didn't look like he was challenging for the ball.
See, when they did the replay of Balogun's, I still didn't think it looked like it was on purpose.
Well, and Flo was trying to get the ball.
Right.
It was a pass from his teammate.
Right.
He wasn't challenging. He wasn't trying to take it away from him.
The one yesterday looked like it was absolutely on purpose.
Right. Yes. He was going, it was a dangerous tackle, and he got the red card for it.
A cleat to the shin.
With Flo, it was two guys going for the ball, and it was just an uncomfortable way that they landed. I don't think that deserves a red card. He was punished with 30 minutes that he had to sit at the end. I think that's punishment enough. I think the result is right. You are perfectly within your rights to challenge the process of how it got there, though, because FIFA obviously is not proven to be playing within the rules all the time. So we will see. I guess the appeal rules said that they had to submit their evidence and their materials by 5 a.m. Pacific time today. So that was a little over 2 hours ago. and we'll see. Maybe we get a decision while we were on the air here. And I don't know which way it's going to go. I would hope that Flo Balogun is going to be available because I do think it makes the U.S. a better team, but I also think that the U.S. is capable of beating Belgium tonight without him. It would just be, it would be like the Michael Scott snip, snap, snip, snap. It's like, can we make a decision here? So the U.S. knows what they're going to be playing with. If we have to get Ricardo Pepi ready, like that would be nice to know as early as possible. But obviously, it's a very strange situation that's going on right now.
Yeah, I don't think that Belgium is going to be able to get this appealed. But I do remember seeing something on Twitter the day after the game on Wednesday versus Bosnia and Herzegovina that the U.S. wouldn't be able to challenge this, but yet it was still overturned. It's one of those things, though, when I saw the news, I didn't ask any questions. I was just kind of happy and like, oh, America's getting another birthday gift.
So I guess the way it was presented is Article 27 is what was referenced in this decision, which basically states that the replay was misused. But they're not saying that it wasn't a red card. FIFA, I don't think, can do that and appeal the decision, but they can appeal how that decision was made. And apparently the referee misused VAR by using slow motion for something that he shouldn't and going frame by frame. So that's why it was overturned. Again, I don't know how we got there. I think it's a good thing that Flo Balogun is going to be on the field tonight, barring any changes here. 615-737-1025. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. JJ has called in. JJ, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. If the Balogun gets to play, no excuses. No excuses.
Yeah.
Get it done, win. Now, if he don't get to play and they win, great. If they, if he doesn't get to play, well, then the built-in excuses are already there. but what I wanted to talk about was FIFA gave us yesterday what the first round wild card weekend of the NFL should be. Okay, you got two games that were just magnificent.
Yep.
A lot of times we win wild card weekend, we might get one good game, and then the rest of them are blowouts. Okay. And that's what made it great. I did not know anybody playing other than Harry Kane. Okay. And the big kid from Norway. I know his name now because he's so big. But I'm the most casual soccer fan. But I enjoyed it because of the drama, the intensity, the level that they was playing. Okay. MLS, figure out a way to get back on linear TV so casual fans like me can see it. I'm not buying Apple TV. Now, I might buy a ticket and go to a game at Geodis, but I'm not buying Apple TV. It was where I could see it on a Sunday afternoon, sit. Thank goodness we had an hour break. I was able to go get a pizza, come back, and sit again. But that's as close to the NFL experience that I get in the fall, other than watching the Titans lose. But you get that experience where you don't have to leave your house. It was where I could see it. That is MLS's problem, not lashing in, but yesterday was great. I'm looking forward to tonight against Belgium.
Yeah, thanks for the call, JJ. I think that's a very good point. That yesterday, that was peak sports right there that we got yesterday with Erling Haaland. Haaland, I think somebody tried to compare Haaland to Steph Curry with Davidson. Of like, Norway's team has never been this far in the tournament. They've just got a superstar that if you get him the ball, he's going to score. And so I don't know if Davidson would be the right comparison because, Davidson, it was Steph Curry and a bunch of nobodies. I do think Norway's team as a group is better than that, but he had the least touches of any starter in that game yesterday and scored 2 goals to win the game. I mean, it was sensational. And then, of course, Canada and Mexico, the 2 goals back-to-back from Bellingham, and then Mexico answers before the half to get it back to a 1-goal game. And the red card, the only thing I could really compare it to, Parker, last night was it was like when a hockey team pulls the goalie at the end of a Stanley Cup game. And it's like, the goalie's just under siege and the defense is making plays. Like, it was peak drama in that game because you just never knew if Mexico was going to be able to equalize and get it to extra time. It was phenomenal. And I actually, so for some reason, the TV in my bedroom, I can only get the World Cup games on Peacock, which is the Telemundo broadcast. And it was awesome. I've been watching all the English language ones. I might have to watch the Spanish language ones from now on. I don't understand soccer enough that like the analysis is going to help me all that much anyway. So just give me the goal. It was awesome, especially for a game that Mexico was included in. Like the passion and the energy was great. Yesterday's soccer was the best that we have seen, I think, in this tournament in terms of a day of games.
I think at least 75% of the knockout games have come down to the wire, and that's made for some incredible drama. And I think of, was it last Monday that Germany and Paraguay and Morocco and Netherlands
that was a great day too, yeah.
Those were some of the best games that I've watched, and probably the best game was Argentina and Cape Verde, and then last night getting Mexico, England. These have been phenomenal. Now, I haven't watched any of the Telemundo broadcasts. I may have to start maybe tonight. I'd like to know if some of these announcers could hold their breath underwater for 24 hours.
I mean, they go on forever. And I felt bad because I was exhausted, but I was like, I have to watch the end of this game. I should have just muted it. My wife's my wife's trying to sleep because she gets up earlier than I do, and it's goal. It was awesome. Great game last night.
That's when you turn it up a little louder.
Yeah. Tatum, get up. Mexico just tied it.
Just scored.
615-737-1025. Excited for the game tonight. I mean, I think this is the turning point's not the right word. This is the moment for the U.S. to break through. You haven't been able to get out of the round of 16. And I know they changed the format with 48 teams, and now you're getting 32 into the knockout stages. But this is that glass ceiling you haven't been able to break through in 25 years, trying to get to the quarterfinals. Beating Belgium tonight means that this World Cup is a success for the U.S. men's national team, no matter what happens. Now, that doesn't mean you don't want to keep winning. And I think the U.S. is capable of winning another game. Portugal and Spain are very good, but I think the U.S. is capable of playing with those teams. We've seen, I mean, look at Cape Verde and Argentina. That's the reigning world champs against a country that has less than 500,000 people, or right around 500,000 people. And they were minutes away from going to penalty kicks. So the U.S. can play with anybody, but winning this game, I think no matter what happens beyond this, you can say this was a successful World Cup. The U.S. took a step forward, and you're starting to see this team compete with the top teams in Europe and South America. But if you lose this game, I would say it is a disappointment because this is the best team that you've had. Belgium is a more favorable draw than some of the teams you've had to face in the round of 16 over the past few years. And if you still come up short, I think that has to be a disappointment, especially the way that this tournament started for the U.S. with those big wins against Paraguay and Australia.
Well, the fact that they were able to beat Paraguay in the fashion that they did, and Paraguay went toe-to-toe with, was it France on Saturday?
Yeah.
That gives me confidence, and just the way that they've played. Now, Spain is, I think they're probably the best team in the field right now. So that's going to be a tough if they're able to get past Belgium tonight. And Belgium's a good team. So I have confidence the USA will win tonight, but them just getting to the quarterfinals is way further than anybody else expected.
Yep. And we will see if they can get it done tonight. Flo Balogun, as of now, eligible to play. We will see if Belgium's appeal is fruitful over the next few hours. But, as of now, he's going to be out there, and that's going to give the U.S. a boost. He's been the leading scorer for the U.S. with 3 goals through the first 4 games, and he's only played 3. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Oh, before we move on, I did want to mention, too, we're talking about the suspension of Flo Balogun's red card, and it is pretty unprecedented. I think it's the only the second time ever in the World Cup that a red card in the World Cup has been suspended, and the suspension hasn't been carried out. But Cristiano Ronaldo was supposed to be suspended for the first 2 games of group play, and FIFA suspended that suspension as well. So I will say, yes, it may be unprecedented given where we are in the tournament, but I didn't hear anybody complaining when Ronaldo was allowed to play those first 2 games in the group stage.
But it's benefiting America. So Americans really shouldn't be complaining about this. Now, other people, I understand because they may not like us as much, but
yeah, people have been posting.
It's the right decision.
The video,
regardless of how they got there, which we probably know was not the best, but It's the right decision.
Have you seen the video of the guy? He's like, corruption is not bad if I am included. And it's like, that's the U.S.
If I benefit from it.
When I benefit from it, corruption is okay. It's like, that's kind of how the U.S. seems to be feeling right now with this being overturned. 615-737-1025. We will keep an eye on it, see if we get any news on Flo Balogun. But as of right now, he is going to be playing for the U.S. men's national team tonight. 7 o'clock kickoff from Seattle. And man, the home field advantage in Seattle for that game against Australia was phenomenal. I'm excited to see what it looks like tonight against Belgium. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on your Monday morning. Next man up, 1025 The Game. The Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix is coming to the Nashville Super Speedway Saturday, July 18th and Sunday, July 19th. And 1025 The Game has your chance to win tickets to the IndyCar race. Text in the keyword RACE, R-A-C-E now to 615-737-1025 to enter to win tickets. For more information on the event, visit musiccitygp.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Talk some World Cup to start the show. The soccer has been great the last few days. U.S. and Belgium coming up tonight, 7 o'clock kickoff from Seattle. We'll get back into that game later on. And, of course, keeping an eye on any news about the appeal of the appeal. I don't even know where we are. Will Flo Balogun play? We'll let you know if we find out. But I did want to talk about the Predators this morning, as last week was NHL free agency. Still some moves to be made out there, but it does look like the Predators have made their big moves. Of course, Maverick Bourque, the trade they made for the restricted free agent, they've now signed him to an extension, 5 years at $6.5 million. And so that's the big move, likely going to be the second line, on the second line at center or wing for the Preds. Adding a young piece to this core that can help the team immediately. Made some other moves. Alex Kerfoot comes in. Lots of bottom six forwards acquired over the last few weeks. But I just wanted to know, for Preds fans out there, and we'll talk about this as well, what are your expectations for this 26-27 version of the Nashville Predators? Knowing the general outlook of what this team is going to look like now, do you think this is a team that can compete for the playoffs? And I do think that they've gotten better. The question is, how much better did this team get in Chris McFarland's first offseason in charge of the Preds?
That's a good question. So I've been thinking with the Preds since they were knocking on the door of the playoff last year. And if they would have gotten off to a better start, they probably would have squeaked in. I think with the moves that they've made, the players that they've brought in, Max was incredibly high on Maverick Bourque. So as somebody who did not watch much Stars hockey whatsoever last year, I trust Max. So it sounds like they've raised the floor of this team. They've brought in some better players. Maverick's going to be a second line center? Is that right?
He'll probably play on the wing. He can play center, but that's what he's listed as a center everywhere. Max let us know that he's probably going to play more on the wing.
So it sounds like they've raised the floor of this team a little bit. So yes, I do think they can contend for the playoffs because they could have made the playoffs last year. They were really close to doing so. So I think they can this year. Now contending, that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, I look at this team and I do think that the forward group looks a lot better. Now they've added a whole lot of depth. Like there's players that I think a lot of us thought were going to be pretty key pieces in the middle six, bottom six that may not even be in the starting lineup most nights now. As the Daily Faceoff has it now, the expected lines, Stamkos, O'Reilly, Evangelista, Forsberg, Wood, and Bourque. Like, is that an elite top six? No. You're still missing your top. Like, O'Reilly's a good center, but he's not your superstar. You're still missing the high-end talent at the top. But I do like the way that looks compared to last year. And then you've completely revamped your bottom six. Right now, Daily Faceoff has Ross Colton, Vitaly Pinchuk, and Jonathan Marchessault on your third line. Nils Höglander, Jack Drury, and Alex Kerfoot on your fourth line. Like, you've really improved your bottom six. I like the way the forward group is looking. The blue line, I think, is the concern. Brady Shea has not been as good as you would have expected him to be since you signed him 2 years ago. And, we get texts all the time about Brady Shea. You'd be like, I think Shea caused that goal. And it's like, oh, yeah, he did. Hagen Perbix as your second pairing. And then Willsby, and they've got Lyubushkin on your third pairing. I don't think it's going to be him. I think you're probably looking at one of the young guys, Ufko. Maybe Molendijk makes a jump. That's where I'm concerned. I think you've added a lot of depth up front. I just don't know if you have the ability to keep things clean in front of UC Saros, which has obviously been a big issue over the last 2 years with the Preds missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it sounds like for the most part, they have this young core intact, or at least who they'd like to be this young core moving forward, the players that they're going to build upon. So that is exciting, if nothing else. But again, I think with the players you brought in, this floor has to be raised, and that's kind of how I feel about the Titans, but I don't see the Titans being in the same spot the Predators are. But I feel like the floor of this team has been raised. So if they make the playoffs next year, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is going to depend on, as we've said before, the young guys taking a step. You know, we read through that list of lines and pairings. You didn't include a whole lot of the young guys. Really, Matthew Wood was the only guy who, I mean, he was a rookie last year, showed a lot, but
Because what, Brady Martin's playing in the AHL
right,
next season?
will Brady Martin make the team out of camp? That's a big question as well.
Wyatt Cullen's going to Minnesota.
Right. Well, yeah, Wyatt Cullen's going to be in
Yeah.
college. Riker Lee is going to be back at Michigan State. So a lot of those guys are a few years away.
What about who was was it the guy they traded back in the first round?
Blyle, he's going
Yeah.
to Michigan State
Yeah.
too. Your
Man,
first
Michigan
round,
State's going to be
there,
loaded.
yeah. Max was telling me that it's like Riker Lee he was like the 20th pick somewhere in there. And he's like the 8th highest drafted player that Michigan State's going to have on their team this year. So they're going to be very, very good. You're not going to see those guys for a while. Igor Surin, who I heard had a pretty good week of development camp, he's going back to the KHL for one more year. So you're a while away from seeing those guys. But I do think there are spots where you can see the young guys growing into this lineup, especially with the D pairs. I'd like to see Ufko play a serious role there. And Molendyke, again, I think it's a huge year for him. He needs to maybe not straight out of camp be part of your NHL lineup, but I think by the end of the year, you have to feel pretty good about where he is in his development. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts on the Preds, again, free agency has not wrapped up. There's still good players out there, still some trades to be made, but I do think that Chris McFarland has made some of his big moves and added to this team. We'll continue to take your thoughts on that coming up next and wrap up hour number 1. We'll talk some Titans in the second hour, seeing how the Titans can make a jump forward in 2026. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 125 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Talking some Preds here to finish up the first hour of the show. We'll do some Titans talk for most of the second hour. And, of course, getting ready for U.S. and Belgium tonight, spotting the quarterfinals on the line. And, man, two great games today as well with Portugal, Spain at 2. I am excited to tune in for that. But we were talking Preds and about what this team could do in the 2026-27 season after some of the moves that Chris McFarland and the team have made over the last few weeks. We've got some reaction. Johnny in Vancouver tweeted at us, says, my reaction Saturday afternoon when the news came down that the Preds and McFarland got Bork under $6 million a season and didn't have to give him no movement or no trade clause. 2 thumbs up for Johnny. I think that is going to be a move that ages well for Chris McFarland. It's rare that you look at a move and say it kind of checks all the boxes for what the Preds were looking to do this offseason. But a guy like Maverick Bork feels like that perfect storm of an ascending player. He had 41 points. He had 20 goals last year, who isn't going to break the bank. The Preds, I want to say, still have about $8 or $9 million in cap space at this point. And you were able to get a team-friendly contract that you don't have to give him that no-movement clause, and he should grow with the young core that you have. Let me look at his contract specifically, because he is in that exact age bracket that you were looking to build around. 6 years, $33 million for Maverick Bork. It runs through the 2031-32 season. So he is going to be one of your young up-and-coming players this year, but he's probably going to be peaking in his career right around the time you're getting your young guys, your young core into the NHL. 2 or 3 years down the road when hopefully Martin and Surin and Wood, and you're getting into Lee and Cullen, those guys are starting to join your team and become core pieces. Maverick Bork is still going to be right there in the prime of his career. Chris McFarland, in his introductory press conference, talked about what he wanted to add to this team. And I didn't know a ton about Maverick Bork when the move was made, but hearing from Robbie and Max and Chase, like, this does feel like the exact type of move the Preds needed to make right now. It's not a go-for-it move. It's not a Steven Stamkos move where you're pushing all your chips to the middle, but you're getting a young, talented player who should only get better for relatively cheap. A second and a third and 6 years, $33 million. Like, it's about as well as you could have done if you're Chris McFarland in your first offseason on the job.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you need players like that, because if your young core or a majority of your young core is not ready yet, you need players that can step in. Maverick Bork being a second line guy, you need people that are going to be able to step in and play very well up until your young guys are able to get acclimated into the NHL level.
Right. And you're trying to close that gap that you have right now. Barry Trotz talked about threading the needle of keeping the team competitive while building up the next core of this team. And I think he did that. Like, yeah, you missed the playoffs the last 2 years, but this year you were right in it. But it's left you with this divide on your roster of you got the group of older guys and you've got the young core coming up, and you're left with not a bunch in the middle, which means you're probably going to be old for the next few years, and then you're going to be really young when those guys start coming up. You needed to bridge that gap, and I think they've done that by bringing in not just Bork, but a guy like Jack Drury too, and signing him to a long-term deal. Those are guys who are going to keep this team in the mix until you get those young guys who you expect to be difference makers ready. Like Brady Martin, you picked 5th overall. He needs to be a difference maker. Wyatt Cullen, I think you expect is going to be a playmaker for this team. I really like Igor Surin. You've got these guys coming through the pipeline, but if they come up to a team that's horrible and has no veterans who are still in the prime of their career, it's not going to be a very good environment for them to grow and get better. I think by making these moves this offseason, you've given the young core the infrastructure around them that hopefully when they get up to the NHL, this team can hit the ground running and hopefully take a big step forward. I really like the moves that Chris McFarland has made.
And I like I like to use the term that Chris McFarland used, the age bucket. I like the types of players that they're bringing in. It seems to fit their timeline where you had some good players on this team last year, but they were all older and they were kind of slower too. You watch this Preds team and they're so much slower compared to some of the other teams. I mean, Stamkos is a great guy to have because while he is an older player, I mean, he was scoring a ton of
he
goals.
Scored, 42 goals last year?
Yeah, but I mean, how much longer realistically is that going to last? So you need some of these younger guys who have some experience in the NHL, but can also play at the same time until your young guys are ready to go.
Right, and that's exactly where I wanted to go with it is, Steven Stamkos was a 40-goal scorer last year. Do you think he's going to do it again this year? Maybe. He could, but I would think that the returns on Steven Stamkos are only going to go down. And that's where you would be left with this gap of, let's say you get, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but the 2027-2028 season, where I would expect that your young guys are all going to make that team. You know, maybe you're iffy on whether Cullen and Blyle in this year's class makes the team, but you expect Martin, you expect Surin, you expect Lee, you expect Molendijk. All these young guys are expected to be on that team. And if they're coming up and it's just like, man, who else is going to be on this squad that we can grow with? That's kind of where you would have been, because odds are Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea, they're either gone or they're on their last legs. Yossi and Forsberg probably getting towards the back end of their career. Like, you'd be running out of gas above those guys. You're bridging the gap. And I like what Chris McFarland did. You added guys who are going to help this team right now and maybe get this team back to being a playoff team in the 2026-27 season. But they're also going to help your young guys when they get up, and hopefully you're ready to be a cup contender. So overall, you know, I don't want to give out a grade on Chris McFarland's offseason. Like, I feel like I'm not in any position to do that.
Who are we to give a grade?
But the way I said it last week is, I think the process is sound from what Chris McFarland is doing. He is making decisions that make sense for where this team is right now. And you hope that it leads to results down the road. But at the very least, I can look at the process that Chris McFarland is going through and say, that makes sense. And that is exactly the direction that this team should be going right now.
And with free agency starting last week, you know, still early on in the process, how many more moves, both acquiring players and trading players, do you think this Preds team is going to make? Because surely you've got to think that with some of the players they have on this team, and I get, you know, some of the roster or some of the contracts are going to be a bit of an issue. How many players on this team do you think still will be traded?
Well, and he did say, Chris McFarland, when he spoke, I want to say it was Alex Doherty who might have asked it of, hey, you've brought in a lot of forwards this year. The joke has been, is he trying to build a split squad team to have two different sets of forwards? And he was asked, like, is there going to be some corresponding moves to maybe cut some other people out of this? And I think the answer is probably yes. I think you're going to see Jonathan Marchessault maybe gone. You know, some of the young guys may start to get pushed out. We saw Zach Leroux and Fedor Svechkov get traded. Does Joachim Kimmel does he get another chance to come up? I would say he should, but with the way you've brought in so many veterans that are going to play in the bottom six, I mean, Colton, Höglander, Drury, Kerfoot, Englund, like, and Pinchuk too. I know that was pre-McFarland, but that's six right there that could play in your bottom six. And what are you going to do with some of the other options that you have there? I would expect there will be some more attrition for the Predators on this roster before the offseason ends. But again, overall, with Chris McFarland, who knows what the results are going to look like when this team hits the ice. Everybody was thrilled when Trotz brought in Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea. But I can at least understand the process and say, all right, I know what he's trying to do to build this team up. It makes sense. And you've added pieces that can help you now and in the future. And you've also added pieces that maybe could be trade chips at the deadline. Ross Colton is on a 1-year deal. So I know they didn't trade Arikala, but it's in the similar vein of, you bring in this guy on a 1-year deal, and if he plays well, maybe he ends up being part of your long-term plans. But if you're struggling as a team and he still has value, you can get rid of him and get something back. So again, I think that there's a lot of pros to what Chris McFarland did in his first offseason as the president of hockey operations. We'll have to see how it all plays out when this team hits the ice in just about 3 months. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. Coming up next, let's talk some Titans. We are still about 3 weeks away from training camp, but a lot of the comparisons for this year's team have gone back a decade to the 2016 season. Previous 2 years, the team had won 5 total games and had been picking in the top 2. These past 2 years, the Titans have won 6 total games and been picking in the top 4. How did they take a jump like the 2016 Titans did? And what are the similarities and differences of how those rosters were built? We'll get into it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5. The Game with you on this Reaction Monday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Starting off the second hour, talking Titans here. We will get back into tonight's World Cup matchup between the USA and Belgium later in the show. We are still waiting on any news about Flo Balogun because, again, Belgium is appealing the suspension of his suspension. It's all very confusing. But we will.
But if you followed college football for the last 2 years,
right,
then it should be familiar territory.
There's no difference. So we will keep you updated if anything new comes out. I saw Belgium. They're saying they're defending the entire sport of soccer by appealing this decision. So
listen, we all know it was wrong. The red card never should have been assessed.
Right.
I get it. Like, your chances of winning are lowered because he's playing, but you're not defending nothing.
Yeah, And I understand there are some people who are saying, like, well, the U.S. shouldn't want this. It's going to taint any win that they have. It's not like the U.S. is some superpower in soccer. We will take whatever wins we can get when we can get them. So we will get back into that later on. Again, 7 o'clock kick out in Seattle tonight. First game of the day, Spain and Portugal, starts at 2 Central Time. But I do want to talk some Titans here. We are getting closer and closer to training camp. The veterans report 3 weeks from tomorrow, and practice gets started just a couple of days after that. Every time we talk about this Titans team and the way they can rebuild and get back to being a contender in the AFC South and in the playoffs, I look back at 2016. That was a Titans team that was horrible in 2014 and 2015. Won 3 games in 2014, had the second overall pick, took Marcus Mariota. Then the next year, they were even worse. Or no, excuse me, flip that. They went 2-14 and got the number 2 pick, then were 3-13 the year afterwards and got the number 1 pick, obviously traded back and were able to accrue a whole bunch of assets, led to Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard and Jack Conklin. And so you don't have that. But you did see the jump. The Titans won a total of 5 games over 2 years in 2014 and 2015, and then rolled off winning seasons in 6 straight years, including a 9-7 year in 2016. How can they make that jump this year? I think there are lots of similarities between the two teams. You've got a second-year quarterback coming off of an up and down rookie year where they didn't win a whole lot of games, but there were definitely flashes. I look back at Marcus's rookie season in 2015 and say, obviously game 1 was a big flash for him, throwing 4 touchdowns. At the end of the year, you had the 87-yard touchdown run against the Jaguars, which was kind of like that moment where you're like, all right, he's growing, he's making plays, and you got excited for year 2. With Cam Ward, there were moments. Definitely were some bad moments as well for the young quarterback, but you do have a second-year quarterback looking to make a jump. You've also got a fresh coach coming in. I know Mike Mularkey coached the final 10 games or so of that season before, but it's his first year setting the culture for that team. Mularkey took over. You've got Robert Saleh here. The big thing that changed, though, for the Titans in winning 9 games was the offense's improvement, though. I look back at 2015. The Titans were the 30th ranked offense by yards and 28th by scoring in 2015. That year, they won 3 games. In 2016, they were 14th in scoring and 11th in yardage. They took a huge step forward on the offensive side of the football. I do think the defense is going to be better for the Titans this year, but you look at last year's numbers, the Titans were one of, if not the worst offense in football. They were 31st in yards and 30th in scoring. Horrible. The offense taking a step forward is going to be really important. I think they've done some things to take that jump. Have they done enough, though, Parker? And there's one difference between the 2016 Titans and the 2026 Titans, and that's that the 16 Titans invested heavily in the offensive line, which this year's version of the Titans has not done.
That's what I'm going to say, because I feel certainly a lot better about the weapons that they surrounded Cam Ward with, right? Drafting Carnell Tate, bringing in Wan'Dale Robinson. You bring back Calvin Ridley. You adjust his contract a little bit. I thought you hit on both of your rookie wide receivers, and now asking them to take on a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 type of role that better fits them. You got Tony Pollard coming back. Now, running back 2, still a question mark because Tajay Spears has proven that he's not been able to stay healthy. The defense is obviously been revamped, and I trust Saleh when handling that part of the team specifically, but it all comes back to the offensive line because there's one person I trust, and that's left guard Peter Skoronski. That's it. I don't know what to expect out of J.C. Latham. I'm hopeful that he can take a jump. He needs to. I'm not confident in left tackle, not confident in center, not confident in right guard. I've been out there. I get it. They haven't worn pads, but I'm still not. It's not a strong suit heading into the season. That's for sure.
Well, you look at the starting offensive line for the Titans in 2016, the year they took the jump. Taylor Lewan was your left tackle. That's a first-round pick at tackle. And Lewan had a good year in 2015, but I would say 16 is where he really established himself. Of course, the big change was you drafted Jack Conklin, who was an all-pro as a rookie in 2016. So you had your tackles solidified. Ben Jones was a huge, huge addition to this team in 2016. They signed him away from the Texans, obviously became a staple of that offensive line for over half a decade. This team took a huge step forward because the offensive line was better. Looking at the difference in stats for the offensive line, looking at the numbers in sacks, 55 sacks in 2015 for the Titans, 28 in 2016. So cut it in half. They also ran for 700 more yards. Now, you did add at the running back position that year. You added DeMarco Murray in that trade with Philadelphia.
What, 1,200 yards for him in 2016?
1,287, 9 touchdowns.
Which, I mean, we expect Tony Pollard, just because he's done it the last 4 years, to get at least 1,000 yards. Don't think he'll get that many, but pretty confident that he'll get 1,000.
I would say I'm not that confident.
Really? You took the under last week, right?
Yeah, I said I think he's going to be like in that 800 to 900 range. You also had Derrick
with the
Henry.
Offensive line being a little worse, at least on paper. That's understandable.
Right. And with Derrick Henry, he had 490 yards, 5 touchdowns. You had a great 1-2 punch at running back. I don't know if you have that this year. Pollard, I think
I'm going to say no.
The wear on the tires is growing, and Spears hasn't stayed healthy. Singleton's a 5th-round pick. And the offensive line is the big thing for me. You were able to invest in the offensive line, and you cut the sacks in half. So Marcus Mariota and Zach Mettenberger in 2015, they took a total of 54 sacks in 2015. They took 28 in 2016. Last year, Cam Ward took 55 sacks last year. And Brandon Allen added 1 more for 56. I don't think you have to cut it in half, right? Like that would be a huge step forward if they got it under 30. But do you think this offensive line is going to be able to get this like even under 40? I would expect that he's probably still going to get sacked probably 2.5 times a game with the way that this offensive line is built. So I do look at it and say it's possible to go from the cellar dwellers of the league for 2 years in 14 and 15 and take that jump. But the strategies are completely different between what John Robinson did in 2016 and what Mike Borgonzi is doing now. You invested in the offensive line and the run game in 2016, and you took a huge step forward. This year, they've gone the opposite way. They've said, we're going to give Cam Ward as many weapons as we can. Is that going to lead to the same results? I don't know, but I would say the offensive line is usually a pretty good place to start when you're trying to get a team back on track.
Absolutely. And there's only so much you can do behind a really bad offensive line. 1, you can't run the football. 2, you can't take your time on deep passes down the field, play action, that sort of thing. Because if you have no run game, if you can't run the football, well, play action certainly isn't going to work. So what's your other option? It's to get the ball out of your hands quickly, but you can only do that so many times. And we saw an example of Joe Burrow leading his team to the Super Bowl behind at the time, they were 30
they were
out of 32
yep.
in the NFL. But Cam Ward's not Joe Burrow.
Right.
At least right now he's not.
Yep.
He's not Joe Burrow. So you can't feel you just want him to get to the point where you're looking at Marcus Mariota's stats. He had just under 3,500 passing yards in 2016. He completed just under 62% of his passes, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. If Cam Ward was able to do that this year, would you say that's improvement?
Yeah. I mean, there were times during that 2016 season where Marcus Mariota looked like he was on the path to becoming a superstar. And let me look through the game logs. Like in that 2016 season, he had a stretch through October and November where he was fantastic. You look at Indianapolis, he had 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, no pick. Jacksonville the next week, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. San Diego, 313 yards, 3 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Then the Green Bay win where he had 295 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like he had a stretch there where you're like, man, this guy is ascending. I think a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. Look at who his leading wide receivers were that year. I won't include Delaney Walker in here. Obviously, Delaney Walker was a big part of it, but his leading wide receivers were Rashard Matthews and Tajay Sharp.
And Rashard Matthews had under 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
And he was the leading receiver.
Yes, they did not have a receiver hit 1,000 yards and took a 6-win jump in 1 year because they built the offensive line up. I've said it all offseason. That offensive line worries me seriously. Not just the starters at center and right guard, but you have nothing behind J.C. Latham and Dan Moore. And if one of those goes down, you might have the worst offensive line in the league just like that.
Yeah, your swing tackle right now. I've seen Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon getting a lot of snaps at
Austin
both.
Deculus is your other option.
Ryan Hayes. Have any of y'all heard of Ryan Hayes?
Right.
Because I certainly hadn't until this year.
You are one twisted ankle away from having a right side of your line be Austin Schlottman, Cordell Volson, and Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon. I understand building. You only have so many resources to build up a team, although you have a lot of cap space left. You spent your resources on building up the wide receivers. And I think this is the strongest wide receiver core on paper the Titans have had in a while. You got a top 5 pick in Carnell Tate. You bring in a 1,000-yard slot receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson, who has experience in this offense. Calvin Ridley, who knows, but he's a veteran guy who has had success in the league, and he's hopefully back healthy. And you've got the young guys in DK and Imanner. The wide receiver room, I got no complaints. But are good wide receivers enough to elevate this team? I don't know. I think a good offensive line might be good enough to elevate a team. And right now, you do not have the pieces in place to have a good offensive line. Maybe if everything goes right, you've got an okay offensive line. But I just struggle to look at that group of 5 that you have right now and say that's going to take a big step forward. And Cam Ward's only going to get sacked 32 times this year. I think he's going to get sacked a decent amount. I think your running game might struggle. And that's the difference. Yes, there are similarities between the 2016 team and the 2026 team. The offensive line is the one where I look and say, man, Mike Borgonzi should have done more there.
Yeah, and I'm confused because Mike Borgonzi is a smart guy. Like, just listening to him in press conferences, he's a smart guy. And that's something where, you don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be this football expert to understand, like, this all starts with the offensive line, and they just have not made the necessary. Now, Brian Daboll may know something that we don't know, but here's what I do know. Austin Schlottman was with him in New York last year, and he wasn't the starter.
Right. He has never played more than like 30% of snaps in a season, and he's just being relied upon to be the starter.
And for you, I know you're focused on being the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans this season, but you want to become a head coach again. And this is your tryout because sometimes you get 2 opportunities being a head coach. We saw that with Robert Saleh. You want to be a head coach again. So this is your trial run.
Yep.
Is this the guy you're willing to gamble on?
Right. And with the Raiders, everybody praised Las Vegas this offseason of like, hey, you overpaid for Tyler Linderbaum, but you just got your number 1 pick quarterback, a center who's going to be able to take everything off his plate. He can make the checks. He can set the protections and take some of that pre-snap load off of Fernando Mendoza. Is Austin Schlottman or Andre James or Pat Coogan? It's not going to be Coogan to start the year, but are those guys going to be able to take that off of Cam Ward? I don't think so. I don't know. Again, you're right. It's like Borgonzi and Daboll and Carmen Brasillo, maybe they know something that none of us do, but you're right. Brasillo and Dable were with Slotman last year in New York, and he wasn't the starter for that team behind John Michael Schmidt. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts on this. You look back and you saw 10 years ago, the Titans were able to make a big step forward from being one of the worst teams in the league to 6 straight winning seasons after that. Have the Titans done enough this offseason to take a similar jump? I think the answer is I don't think so, but we'll take your thoughts and continue to look at this offense heading towards the 2026 season. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. All of our football offseason coverage on 102.5 The Game is presented by Tennessee Brewworks and Parman Tractor and Equipment, providing totally outrageous customer service. Visit parmantractor.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on this Reaction Monday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Talking Titans here. We are about 3 weeks away from training camp and looking at how the Titans can take a jump forward this year. They have to be better, right? You cannot have a season like you had the last 2 where you've only won 3 games. They have to be better. And I think, Parker, on this show, we've kept expectations realistic of 6 or 7 wins, I think, is a realistic step forward for this team in year 1 under Robert Saleh. And it shows that there's at least progress for this roster and hopefully for your young quarterback as well. But looking back 10 years ago, the Titans were able to finally get out of being, they were mediocre for most of the end of the Fisher days and through Mike Munchak. And then the Wisenhunt years similar to Brian Callahan's 2 seasons, completely decimated them and put them at the bottom of the NFL. They were able to jump out of that and immediately become a winning football team again in 2016. How did they do it? We've kind of circled in on the offensive line, just got a whole lot better. You cut the sacks in half. You raised your average yards per attempt on the ground by half a yard, which it doesn't seem like a lot, but over a season, that makes a big difference. It was 700 more yards throughout the year. And the Titans have neglected the offensive line this offseason. I think on paper, you have to say right now, the offensive line is worse than it was a year ago at this point. And your running game stayed about the same. You in 2016, you added DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry, and they were your 2 guys. This year, you've stuck with Pollard and Spears, and Saleh even said they're going to be the bell cow guys for this team. Is that enough to help out your young quarterback? I do think that Mike Borgonzi is banking on the wide receivers helping Cam Ward more, being able to get the ball out quicker, being able to make more explosive plays. But typically, when you're building a team up from the rebuilding state that they've been in the past few years, you start with the trenches. And Mike Borgonzi has even said as much, that he wants to build through the trenches, but his actions this offseason have not led that way. And I don't want it to seem like I'm bashing on everything Mike Borgonzi did this offseason, because I think he did a lot of good things. I think the defense looks a lot better on paper, especially up front. I think your wide receiver room looks great. But if you want to build a good team, usually the offensive line has to be at the very least above average. And this team just doesn't have it. And I mean, we've been beating a dead horse with this for a while, but you look back and you say, all right, this has been done before. The Titans were able to climb out of being a horrible team and reel off 6 straight winning seasons. And it started with getting a veteran center and drafting well on the at tackle with Lewan and Conklin. You hope with Latham, and Skoronski seems to be a hit. But outside of that, the offensive line is just, I mean, it's not in a good spot. And Parker, you said to me during the break, we're going to find out a lot more about the offensive line once the pad come on in training camp. And that's 100% true. They're going to have their opportunity to prove themselves. But on paper, it looks like this is going to be a serious problem.
And I'm not confident that it's going to happen, because we're going to see Jeffrey Simmons. We're going to see John Franklin Myers. I'm not super confident in this edge group, but I still think with the tackle situation that the Titans have going on right now, I still think they'll be able to get past them no problem. But how is that interior, that guard, center, guard triangle going to handle John Franklin Myers and Jeffrey Simmons?
Yeah.
We're going to know a lot. Like I told you, once training camp comes around, I'm just not confident it's going to happen. And this is going to sound like us railing on the Titans, and it kind of is. But I understand. Mike Borgonzi wants to get Cam Ward weapons. You certainly have to do that. I understand. You want to get the ball out of Cam Ward's hands. That makes sense. But you have to be able to run the football as well. You have to be able to take deep shots down the field. You have to be able to do play action. And if you don't have a good offensive line, you can't do any of that.
And I also understand that you can only play the cards that are in front of you. And when the Titans came on the clock at number 4, it's not like there was a stud offensive lineman staring them in the face and they passed on him, right? Like
Correct. It was Francis
Maui-Noa and Fano and Caden Proctor. None of those guys were worthy of the 4th overall pick. So it's not like I'm saying you shouldn't have taken Carnell Tate. I understand you can only play the board that you've got. It's the lack of aggression in upgrading the interior of the offensive line in free agency. And there is still time to make moves, but the lack of aggression as well in the draft with trying to go get some of, like, you traded back into the first round to get Keldrick Falk. I believe I saw they tried to trade back in to get the Georgia Tech guard, Rutledge.
Yeah, Rutledge.
They tried to trade up and the Texans just beat them to it. But you had the resources to go out and get better on the offensive line. You take Falk at 31, you take Hill at 60. Both could end up being very good players, but then you knew you had about 100 picks until your next pick and still hadn't done anything on the offensive line. That paired with not just going out, and maybe it would have been an overpay, and you would have had to pay the we suck tax to go get one of these centers or right guards to come in here. But now you're left 3 weeks before training camp with Austin Slopeman, Andre James, and Cordell Volson is your best options at center and right guard. And you're 100% right, Parker, that it's going to be trial by fire for those guys. And they will have the opportunity to shut us up and prove us wrong if mid-August through all the padded training camp practices and into the preseason, it's like, man, these guys are really holding their own against Big Jeff and JFM. I just don't think that's the way it's going to go. I can already see it a month and a half from now being like, man, Jeffrey Simmons is eating their lunch every single day.
And that's the way, in all fairness, that's the way summer training camps are set up. It doesn't matter the level of football you play. The defense typically wins more during that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be fun to watch if the offensive line is getting derailed every single practice.
Right. So it starts in the trenches. And again, Mike Borgonzi has said as much. He has said before that he wants to build this team through the trenches. And I think you've done it on the defensive side of the ball. There is talent and there is depth on that defensive line. The offensive line, I mean, what moves have they made on the offensive line this offseason? I don't count 1-year deals for former backups and 5th and 6th round picks as making a move on the offensive line.
Drafted Carmona in the 5th round, drafted Coogan in the 6th.
And you got
signed a couple of 1-year guys
and Volson on a 1-year deal. Like
Deculus. And that's been about it. So do you remember that show we had where we were talking about the center market? It was already really thin. And I told you during the break, you didn't have to go out and get Tyler Lindenbaum to be your center.
Yeah.
But you didn't go get
anybody. Yeah.
Like you could have gotten Cade Mays. There were guys that you could have brought in and signed. That would have been just fine.
I do think that they brought in Andre James. He's played a whole lot more than Austin Sloatman, and he does have familiarity with Brasillo.
And TD's already said he may very well challenge for that starting center spot.
I wouldn't hate it. At least it's somebody that has gotten through a 17-game season as the starter before instead of somebody who's been an 8-year backup in the NFL. And Austin Sloatman, I hope that he comes in and proves everybody wrong, and he's just been a diamond in the rough. But again, these are the same guys who are making the decision to bench you in New York. Why do they think that he's going to immediately come in and be a starter here? It's concerning. And again, we bring this up multiple times a week, and it may feel like beating a dead horse before we've even seen them actually out on the field, but they didn't do anything to improve the offensive line this year. And it's a multiple year build. You don't have to be a team that you look at and say that's a Super Bowl contender every single season, but you're leaving yourself, as we said last week, Parker, with the possibility of having to replace 3, maybe even 4 of your starters on the offensive line next season. It should be a gradual thing where, all right, we've got 3 spots we don't feel great about on the offensive line. Let's make sure we address this one this offseason and at least have options. Dan Moore is a fine option at left tackle for this year. I didn't think that they needed to go out and draft a tackle this season.
They can next year. Next year, they'll be able to get out of it.
But unless Pat Coogan or Fernando Carmona or Jackson Slater turns out to be a starter in the NFL, which is a big if, all of those guys being late day 3 picks, you're probably going to have to replace center and right guard too. And that's now 3 spots on the offensive line that you have to get better at. And I'm not going to completely say it's going to be a disaster because, again, we haven't seen them in pads on the field yet, but I don't know how you can look at this and feel good about it. And there's still guys out there on the market that could at least make you feel better about the depth. Go get Taylor Decker. Go get Jack Conklin. Go get Kevin Zeitler. Like, I know those are aging guys, but if you want to see your quarterback develop this year, keeping him off his butt's probably going to help do that. Like, I get it. You gave him weapons. You gave him a possible number 1 wide receiver to grow with in Carnell Tate. He loved his slot guys, as we saw with Xavier Restrepo at Miami. Yeah. You get him Wan'Dale Robinson. You get him a better offensive coordinator. None of that matters if he's running for his life for 17 straight games.
And Cam Ward was sacked a lot last year. He has a tendency to hold on to the football a little bit too long as well. So, do you really trust that he can get better at that this year? He can get the ball out of his hands quicker this year, but that issue isn't going to completely fix itself if the offensive line is as bad as it is.
Yep.
At least on paper.
On paper.
I hope they prove us wrong. I really do.
Right.
Because we're Titans fans on the show. I hope they prove us wrong.
It would be great if by October, we're looking and saying, man, we really underestimated Austin Slopeman and Cordell Volson, or Jackson Slater's taken a huge step in year 2. It'd be great, but I don't think you can expect any of that given the resumes of these guys. Volson didn't play at all last year with an injury. Slopeman's been a career backup. Slater's a 5th-round pick out of Sacramento State.
And Volson came from Cincinnati.
Right. It's like
where they've had great offensive lines the last couple years.
Like you can hope that one of those guys or two of those guys are going to take huge steps forward, but hope is not a strategy. And it doesn't feel like they had a whole lot of a strategy when it came to addressing the offensive line this offseason. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will address the play caller part of this coming up next, because Terry Robisky and the exotic smash mouth offense had its moments, but I feel better with Brian Dable. So can that help you scheming things up a little bit better for Cam Ward in year 2? How can that help the Titans make this jump forward on the offensive side of the ball in 2026? 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you, talking Titans here on this Reaction Monday. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We're talking a lot about the Titans' offensive line, some of the lack of moves there this offseason. Let's check in with Tristan, who's called in. Tristan, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, I think drafting Pat Coogan was a great idea, and the tackle from Notre Dame, the one that free agent that we picked up, I think he's going to do extremely well if we get rid of J.C. Latham or Dan Moore. I think he gave up 0 sacks at Notre Dame, or just 2 sacks, and 0 sacks against Georgia. Wagner is his name. So, so I think those 2 players are going to do extremely well. I wish we had, instead of drafting Cardinal Tate, I wish we had drafted Viggy Ione from Penn State. Then we would have been line much better.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Tristan. I mean, I think with Vega Ione, he was kind of the Peter Skoronski of this draft class, where it's like you look at him and you say, that might be the safest player you could take, but he plays a position that you don't value at the top of the draft. So I have no problem with the Titans taking Carnell Tate at 4. Maybe you could have traded back if there was an offer on the table and picked up an offensive lineman. But if you're sticking and picking at 4, there wasn't an offensive lineman who was worth it. This is the issue, though. It's like the 2 moves that he brought up of like, I like them. And I like them, too, for where they got them. Pat Coogan in the 6th round, and Emil Wagner, the Notre Dame tackle, as an undrafted free agent. Like, for where you got those guys, sure, those are good moves. But they're a 6th round pick and an undrafted free agent. I don't think you can count on them for anything. And again, I don't want this to seem like I'm saying there's no chance that the Titans offense can succeed this year, because I don't believe that. I think that they have gone with a different strategy than what we saw previously with John Robinson and a lot of other teams around the league that like to build from the trenches. But we've also seen it work. You talked about the Bengals, Parker, of that 2021 season that Titans fans like to forget. That was a team that invested in its weapons and basically ignored the offensive line. And they still found a way to go to the Super Bowl. That's because Joe Burrow's Joe Burrow. Cam Ward, not Joe Burrow, at least from what we've seen so far. So, yeah, it's worked in the past, but you got to have a really special quarterback, and the wide receivers have to be pretty special too. Like Jamar Chase is generational talent at wide receiver coming out of LSU. So I'm not saying it can't work, but the more standard practice is build your offensive line and protect your quarterback. Give him a good run game too, and don't force him to be a hero. I think you're putting a lot on the shoulders of Cam Ward when you likely aren't going to be able to protect him at a high level, and your running game isn't going to be elite either, which means if the offense is going to get better, the Cam Ward, the quarterback, has to play a lot better. It's a different strategy. Doesn't mean it's not going to work, but I think we've seen more success of building the offensive line, the run game, and then letting the quarterback play from there, rather than it's like, all right, we've given you weapons, go out and do it. Maybe Cam Ward takes a huge jump, and it doesn't seem to matter. But again, it's a whole lot of ifs that we're talking about right now, because on paper, this offensive line just isn't in a good spot.
Yeah, and I make a lot of similarities between like Brian Daboll, what he was able to do with Josh Allen, because Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming, he kind of had to coach out of him like, hey, you are capable of taking over and being Superman, but you don't have to do it all the time. And I thought, like, as you know, the last couple of years, we've really seen Josh Allen kind of decrease on the turnovers, right? Not throwing so many interceptable footballs, realizing that, hey, I don't have to be Superman. But when the time comes for me to be Superman, I can do that. Cam Ward I'd like to think that he has a similar trait. Now, Brian Daboll has to get this out of him, where he tries to be Superman too often. Sometimes it works. He makes some incredible plays that you just shouldn't be able to make. And then sometimes what in the world were you doing? In order to help that, you have to have a good offensive line.
Yeah.
And we are beating a little bit of a dead horse here, but that's just how I feel.
I will say, so you mentioned Brian Daboll. And that is Brian Dable is a large part of the optimism that I have for the offense taking a step forward. I would say the offensive line is the big reason I'm pessimistic about it. But with Brian Dable coming in, I do think that he's going to put Cam Ward in spots to succeed. Can Cam Ward do it? Will he be able to make accurate passes down the field? And will he be able to execute the offense Brian Dable wants him to run? I don't know. We're going to have to see it play out. But I do think that Brian Dable is going to be a massive boost for this offense over what you had last year in Brian Callahan and Bo Hardigree. Looking back at 2020, which is the year Josh Allen made a huge leap at quarterback. Josh Allen in 2019 completed 59% of his passes for 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 9 picks. In 2020, he completed 69% of his passes, 10% more, for 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. The offensive line in front of Josh Allen, the starters, and actually a lot of these guys didn't even start the whole season. Darrell Williams, Brian Winters, Mitch Morse, Ike Betcher. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never heard of that person before. And Deion Dawkins at left tackle, who obviously we know Deion Dawkins has turned into a really good player. But that's not a complete wrecking crew up front for the Bills that Josh Allen was able to build behind. But I guess what the where this takes us is you can't bank on Cam Ward being Josh Allen, right? Maybe Brian Dable can work his magic again and Cam Ward becomes a 4,500 yard, 37 touchdown guy. And you don't really, you don't have to worry about the offensive line in front of him as much, but that's a big if. Again, we just keep getting back to these. If this happens, if that happens, if the offensive line was better, I think there'd be a whole lot less ifs around the rest of the team.
Yeah. And because you can feel a lot better about the floor of this team, but I always come back to the same thing. Until this gets fixed, until this part of the team gets fixed, it's hard for me to see the Titans taking a significant jump. Like I see some people on Twitter getting excited about, oh, the rebrand, new stadium, new coaching staff, new players. I get all of that. There's a lot of excitement in that. But it's hard for me as someone who's trying to be realistic of seeing this team making a jump to get to 9 wins or get to 10 wins and making the playoffs when this part of the team, at least as of right now, is hindering you so much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of reasons for optimism around the Titans. With Borgonzi seems to be a competent front office executive to be your GM. I think Robert Saleh brings experience, and his coaching staff, of course, has a ton of experience. Cam Ward, you're hoping as the number 1 overall pick is going to take a step forward. There's a lot of reasons for optimism. And I would say I would feel way better about the Titans this year if they made 1.5 moves on the offensive line. Get a starter on the interior and add a swing tackle. Boom. I'd feel way better. So they can still do that, honestly. Go get Zeitler and sign Jack Conklin. Boom. I feel way better about the offensive line. Not saying it's going to be elite, but I think that at least that gives you another veteran up front who can help the team right now, and it gives you a break glass in case of emergency if Latham or Moore goes down. Like those are the two things I'm worried about, is that you've got 2 guys who have not proven they can be starters at center and right guard, and you don't have a backup plan if Latham or Moore gets hurt. So,
and God forbid one of those guys go down.
Yeah.
Then you're really in trouble.
Right. That's what I'm saying is if Latham or Moore goes down, you're looking at a disaster of a situation. You can still fix this. Mike Borgonzi still has the flexibility, and there are still the players out there that at least on paper would make you feel better about this offensive line. You can still go do it. Let's see if anything comes down here with training camp coming up in just about 3 weeks. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will take your thoughts on the Titans. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Getting set for tonight's U.S. Belgium matchup. Just over 8 hours away. We are still waiting to see if Flo Balogun is going to be available. As of now, he is. So, we'd have to. Something would have to change. Belgium trying to appeal, but have not seen any news on that. Donald Trump did say that he made the call.
So that was
overturned.
real.
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was fake when you
No,
first
it was
told me.
real. I don't know if he said the Biden part. That might be fake. But anyway, I thought that was funny. That he was like, "Yep, it was me. I made the call." And Flo, as of now, is available. We'll see if Belgium's appeal ends up working out for them. I would assume there'd have to be a decision imminently. I mean, again, we are 8 hours away.
Is there
from
a
kickoff.
deadline for this appeal to have a ruling, a decision?
Well, so they made the deadline for them to submit their findings and everything at 5 a.m. Pacific time today. So 7 a.m. Central time. And I guess whoever the decision maker is, I saw that he's not affiliated with CONCACAF or UEFA. So it's an impartial judge is going to make the call here. We will see, but U.S. as of now, full strength and trying to move on to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002. We'll get into that a little bit more later in this show. But we've been talking Titans this hour. 0960 chiming in on the text line asked, why do you think they aren't making these moves to improve the offensive line? I think spending money on depth is a smart investment. I also think we got to give these guys a chance to prove they can get it done. I don't know why there's been a reluctance to make these moves, right? Like maybe it's some of these veterans just didn't want to go through the offseason program and they're waiting to sign until right before training camp. Obviously, we've seen that in a ton of different places. You could wait. You could maybe see Zeitler. You could possibly see a swing tackle. I've mentioned a few guys who are still out there. I agree with you, though, 0960, that, like, yeah, you do want to give some of the young guys a chance. Like, I want to right guard maybe is a spot you don't address, although that's where Zeitler would be, because I do want to see what Jackson Slater can do. I think there's promise with Jackson Slater. But the one spot they have to fix is swing tackle. Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon cannot be the third best tackle on this roster. It just cannot happen. I know we had the caller, Tristan, who said Emil Wagner. I'm excited to see what he does, but again, he's an undrafted free agent. You can't rely on those guys to be part of your long-term future. Maybe you'll be okay with what you've got on the interior with Sloatman and James and Coogan and Carmona and Slater and Volson. You've got a lot of bodies in those rooms right now, but tackle, it's a no-brainer to add something there behind Dan Moore.
It doesn't hurt, or else you're relying on an undrafted free agent guy and getting Crenshaw-Dixon or Austin Deculus.
Right. It's just,
and not that there's anything wrong with undrafted free agents, because there are success stories there,
right.
But it's not a high probability.
Yeah, like Emil Wagner has every opportunity to go out there and prove himself. And same with Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon and Austin Deculus. But like, when you're building a roster, I don't think you can just say, yeah, we're going to hope the undrafted free agent turns into a starting level player. It's not how you build a team. Anyway, Titans getting ready for training camp in 3 weeks. And we will have to see once the pads come on, if this offensive line can hold up against what is a much deeper defensive line that Robert Saleh and Mike Borgonzi have built this offseason. I did want to wrap up the hour with this. The Brandon Ayuk saga, Parker, have you been following along with this? I mean,
I saw something. He made a comment about Jaden Daniels being his former teammate, and
right.
something about his mom.
Yeah, some people are questioning, like, are they trolling each other? Like, is Brandon Ayuk trying to be so disruptive that the 49ers have no choice but to cut him? Like, I have no idea. He said he's going to be a commander soon. I don't know if that's actually, in the cards for him, but it's sad. I mean, it's sad to see this because it reminds me of Chandler Jones when he was going on Instagram Live, and you're just like, there's clearly something wrong here. And with Brandon Ayuk, maybe this is just a ploy to try and get himself out of San Francisco, but it does look like there is something that has a screw that's gone loose with Brandon Ayuk, and you hope he's okay. And, you wish him the best to try and get back out on the field at some point, but I wouldn't touch him if I was a team.
I wouldn't either.
Based on the stories we heard out of San Francisco, based on everything that we're seeing on Instagram right now, is there any team that you would think is like, yeah, that's a good idea to add that to our locker room?
Well, I could see, I don't know, because if you're a contender, if you're a legit Super Bowl contender, and there's no need to bring a guy like that in the locker room, you're probably not going to make that move, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, unless you're just like, man, if we can get him back on the tracks. I think there might be an element of that for some of these teams of we can fix it.
But there's no need. I just don't understand. He was on a contender in San Francisco.
Right.
And you're in a Shanahan offense. You were drafted. You were the wide receiver 1 for a while. You're going to get targets.
He was supposed to be the wide receiver 1 last year. And, he hasn't played a full season since 2023. And obviously that was his big year where he had 75 catches for 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns. Big year for Brandon Ayuk. Got him the new deal. But then he played 7 games in 2024, missed all of last season. I don't think it would be smart for anybody to bring him in. Trevor on the text line says, I never thought I'd see someone make Antonio Brown look normal. And I don't even know if he's gotten to that point yet.
I don't know.
But
he's not out of the league.
It's very similar. And also, Brandon Ayuk isn't the player that Antonio Brown was. Antonio Brown was a ridiculous.
Was a Hall of Fame guy.
He was the conversation from about probably 2015 through 18 was Julio Jones and Antonio Brown. Those are the 2 best wide receivers in the league.
Man, weren't those the days?
Odell Beckham was in there for a little bit when he first joined the league, but it was like, man, Antonio Brown was borderline unstoppable. And he gets traded to the Raiders.
Per his wish.
They cut him. What did he do with the Raiders again? He went to the Patriots for 1 game that year.
Yeah,
and then got cut
with the Bucks.
Then he was with the Bucks, and that was when he ran off the field, taking his jersey off. I think
was that 21 or 20?
I think it was 21. But
so he was there for the Super Bowl.
Maybe not actually.
I can't remember.
I feel
like I should know.
It went from him being maybe the best receiver in the league to just a head case in a couple of years. It was 2020 and 2021. So yes, he was on the Super Bowl team. Yeah, 2018.
If I remember correctly. Yeah.
The numbers for Antonio Brown are just ridiculous in his last 5 years in Pittsburgh. 129 catches for 1,700 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2014. 136 catches for 1,800 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2015. 1,200 yards, 1,500 yards, 1,300 yards. He had over 100 catches in 6 straight seasons. He had 15 touchdowns in his last year in Pittsburgh. And then played 1 game with New England in 19, played 15 total games over 2 years with Tampa Bay, and that was it. It's just – and I think maybe that experience could possibly dissuade some teams from being like, Brandon Ayuk, he's never been Antonio Brown. And do we want to add that kind of character to our locker room right now? I think the answer is probably no. If I had to guess, I don't think he ever plays NFL football again. Again, there probably will be an opportunity at some point, but I think there's a decent chance that he is just that he's done playing.
Because honestly, I was actually thinking about this the other day. If I'm an NFL team, I don't have a desire to bring a guy like that into my locker room.
Yeah. It would be different if last year he put up 1,400 yards, right? Because I think teams would be like, all right, we just saw proof of concept that this dude is a high-level NFL wide receiver. We can deal with some of the BS that goes on because he's going to help our team right now. But you haven't seen him play a full season in over 2 years. Does anybody really know if he's going to help you on the field? And he's probably not going to help you off the field. So I am I think there's a decent chance that Brandon Ayuk's playing days are done. It's been such a strange saga that's gone on over the past few months. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got one more hour with you on this Reaction Monday. We're going to start a new July tradition here over the next 4 weeks because media days are beginning. And it starts with the Big 12 this week. The ACC is next week. The SEC is 2 weeks after that. And then it wraps up with the Big 10 at the end of July. So we're going to give just an early look at what these conferences might look like. We'll do that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Third and final hour on this Reaction Monday, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We're going to talk some college football in this last hour. We'll also get back into the World Cup. The U.S. and Belgium tonight at 7 Central Time. Winner moves on to the quarterfinals, where they will face the winner of Portugal and Spain, which gets going in just about 3 hours here. But before we do all that, we were talking about Brandon Ayuk and the saga going on right now with San Francisco. He's trying to get to the Commanders with his former college teammate, Jaden Daniels. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jim is called in. Jim, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing well.
Hey, I was just wanted to mention about Brown. He was great and everything, but remember when he got knocked out in that Cleveland game the last year or last 2 years in Pittsburgh? He was never the same guy. He came back and he was just off.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It was Vontez Burfict who hit him with Cincy.
That's right. Yes. and he was never the same. Even he started to fly into practices and stuff. He was just never the same guy in the locker room or nothing. But Brandon Ayuk, he's like a one-hit wonder. He had that one great year to get a big contract and then never did nothing else. And then that's why people should stay away from him or give him a small contract with a lot of incentives. But I wouldn't sign him even for free.
Right. I think you look at Antonio Brown and people were willing to take a chance on all of the extracurriculars because he had been an elite player, one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL. With Brandon Ayuk, he's had one really good season, and with everything else going on, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to take a chance on him. But we'll see. Well, training camp's coming up quick, and he's still all over Instagram Live trying to see if he can force his way over to our nation's capital. Let's get into some college football here, Parker. So I told you before we came on today, we've got media days coming up over the next 4 weeks, which means we are slowly inching towards college football season. It'll be the Big 12 this week in Dallas. The ACC is next week. I want to say in Charlotte, but I'd have to check that. The SEC is the week after. It starts 2 weeks from now in Tampa. And then the Big 10 wraps it up in the final week of July with their media days. So each Monday, we're just going to take a little bit of a look at what these conferences might look like as we gear up for the 2026 college football season. We've got our guy, Parker Kelley, who is our college football expert on the station. Make sure you listen to the Air Raid with Parker Kelley as well.
And subscribe.
Yes, subscribe. New episodes starting to come out shortly.
First show will be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time on the 102.5 YouTube, my YouTube, and Twitter.
There you go.
So plenty of ways to watch.
So tune in for the Air Raid with Parker Kelley, and no better when it's just me and Parker in here. Want to use his insights. So Big 12, they start off the media days and a little disappointed. Obviously, the Brendan Sorsby saga has wrapped up in the way that it should have. He's not playing college football this year. But we were talking about it, how these conference media days were going to be a bloodbath. And it still might. I think Texas Tech is going to take some strays this week down in Dallas. I believe the media days are being held at the Cowboys facility. So there's probably still going to be some subtle jabs thrown out at Texas Tech, but obviously not as fiery anymore. Let's start with Texas Tech. Parker, they are the favorite to win the Big 12 once again, but doing so without their high price tag transfer portal quarterback in Brandon Sorsby, going to be Will Hammond. Do you still think it's Texas Tech head and shoulders above everybody else with the roster that they've built?
Yes, but not as much because there was a huge gap when you have Brandon Sorsby. Obviously, you think that Texas Tech believed, last year when they played in that Fiesta Bowl versus Oregon, they had everything they needed, right? They got a lot out of the transfer portal. The defense was rock solid. Probably the foundation of that team last year. The offensive line was good, had a good run game, even despite suffering an injury in the preseason to their best running back. They still were able to make it work, had some great wide receivers, but Baron Morton was the piece that held them back. So they think to themselves, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to get a big-time quarterback in the transfer portal. They get Sorsby. With Sorsby, they believe that they were legit national championship contenders. So they were the clear, obvious choice to win the Big 12 once again, to repeat. Now you have Will Hammond, and Will Hammond actually came in relief last year of Baron Morton when Morton had the ankle injury. And Will Hammond, they still won football games. And with the schedule that they play this year, it wouldn't surprise me if Texas Tech went undefeated. It wouldn't surprise me if they went 11-1. Heck, even 10-2 might still get them to the Big 12 championship game. So, yes, they still are the favorite. Will Hammond's a very capable quarterback, but he's also coming off of ACL. So that's something you have to keep in mind. But, yes, it is still Texas Tech in the field as it stands right now.
Yeah, I think the team that I would look at next would be BYU. They were able to, with the Crumble Cookies money, they were able to keep Kalani Sitake in Provo. So I would say they're your next team. They have been a playoff contender each of the last 2 years and just ended up on the outside looking in. But I think they're clearly number two. And then with the Big 12, I think similarly to the ACC, which we'll talk about next week, it's like there's a pretty steep drop-off after BYU. Utah has been a really good team over the past few years, but obviously you're in that post-Kyle Whittingham era now. And I still think they'll be decent, but I think it'll be more like borderline top 25 versus top 15-ish where they've been over the past few seasons.
They're a really tough read because You expect Morgan Scalley was the head coach in waiting. It was understood that when Kyle Whittingham, whenever his time came, either he retired or I don't think anybody really expected him to take a different job
Right.
just because he seemed like a Utah lifer. But there was an understanding that Morgan Scalley was the head coach in waiting. So the defense, you don't expect much of a drop off at all because it's the same guy, same system. Offensively, you lose your offensive coordinator because Whittingham takes him to Michigan. They still have Devin Dampier at quarterback,
Right.
who was a great story last year. I didn't think got enough attention, but is he going to have to learn a different scheme? It seems like he is, at least a little bit, because it's not going to be the exact same. I don't know. I think the run game, Utah's going to rely on what they do best, right? Running the football and playing good defense. You'd like to see Devin Dampier make some plays through the air, but I don't really know. I think it's fair to expect maybe a slight drop off from Utah this year, maybe like a 9-3, 8-4.
Yeah, I do like Dampier. I mean, he is an electric athlete. And Morgan, I saw, was it Morgan Scalley who said, like, as soon as he got the job, he went straight to Devin Dampier's apartment trying to make sure that he kept him.
That's the one guy on offense that you really want to keep.
Right. So they were able to hold on to the quarterback, but I think they probably are a tier below BYU. Texas Tech is at the top. BYU is number 2. Bear Bachmeier still the quarterback at BYU this year?
Yep. He was a true freshman last year, by the way.
Right.
So
I love that that the Bachmeiers just named their kids after animals.
Bear and Tiger.
Tiger. He's a wide receiver at Stanford.
Yes.
That sounds
but
right.
transferred to BYU. They both transferred to BYU.
Oh, he's at BYU.
Yeah. So he'll be throwing passes to his brother.
So I just remember Tiger Bachmeier from the College Football 25 video game. I got him to transfer to Wyoming after year 1. But yeah, he's at BYU now. Those Utah schools, I think, are firmly in your 2 and 3 spots in the Big 12, but Texas Tech at the top after winning it last year, even without Brendan Sorsby. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, it is a Reaction Monday. We are getting ready for media days around the college football landscape. Big 12 this week, the ACC next week, SEC in Tampa in 2 weeks, and then wrapping up with the Big 10. We'll also continue to preview the U.S. and Belgium coming up tonight in Seattle. 615-737-1025. We'll look around the rest of the Big 12 coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. A few more segments with you on this Monday. I did want to put it out there tomorrow. We've had to shuffle around the lineup a little bit with some vacations here. So it's going to be Connor and Nick filling in for Chase and Big Joe all week, which they won't host with me on Tuesdays and Fridays. So tomorrow, Kevin Ingram going to join us for an hour. We'll talk some Vanderbilt men's basketball, Vandy football. We'll talk some Titans with KI. So Kevin Ingram going to join us from 10 to 11 tomorrow. Excited for that as we shuffle things up here in the summer. But we're getting ready for media days across college football, starting with the Big 12 this week. We went through some of the favorites there, Parker, with Texas Tech. They are the USA Today preseason poll actually came out this morning, has Texas Tech 1, BYU 2, Utah 3. Houston is really interesting. It's Willie Fritz that's their head coach, right? The former Tulane coach. I like Houston. They've got some talent down there. I believe they just recruited a 5-star quarterback as well in this last year's class too. So the Cougs might be on the up and up. Houston picked 4th in this preseason poll.
That is, so I saw on the grid, we're going to talk about dark horse contenders. That is my dark horse contender.
All right,
for the Big
I love
12.
it.
Houston, they went 10-3 last year. They really flew under the radar. I think they were ranked like the last 4-5 weeks of the season. They really flew under the radar. But this is a team that returns most of their pieces, their key pieces from last year. Their quarterback, Connor Wegman, who was at A&M 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Former 5-star quarterback. He's still in college. He's with the Cougars. Willie Fritz, man. He's just been able to build up teams. Tulane. They were they had fallen on hard times before he got there.
Yeah.
And he got them, consistently getting to 10 wins, got Houston to 10 wins last year. And on top of that, you have baked in a top 10 transfer portal class.
Yeah.
So I don't think Houston's going to win the Big 12 because I still like Texas Tech and BYU. But if you're looking for a sleeper, Houston is absolutely in there.
Yeah, keep an eye on Houston. I know, Willie Fritz, John Summerall obviously deserves a lot of credit for what he did at Tulane, but he was able to build on a foundation that Willie Fritz built. And Houston, definitely a team to keep an eye on the Big 12. Let's check in on the Arizona schools here, Parker. Arizona, the Wildcats, they've got Noah Fafita back at quarterback this year. I think they'll be an okay team. My big question for you, Parker, is like, man, what happened with the Kenny Dillingham era at Arizona State? Like, man, after they made the playoffs 2 years ago, and I know that they lost Cam Scattaboo, and now you've lost Jordan Tyson, and Sam Levitt's gone now, but like, man, that looked like a program that was ready to take a big step forward, and it's just been really disappointing last year, and now this preseason ball has them picked 8th, just right in the middle of a pack of this Big 12 conference.
Yeah, so a large part of it was Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt had an injury, some other things going on last year, so he didn't really play. And they had Jeff Sims at quarterback, who turnover machine.
Yeah.
So that is the first piece. But I also think too, why I've really enjoyed watching the Big 12 over the last few years is it's so competitively balanced up until last year, because Texas Tech had really done something that no team in the Big 12 has done. And I mean, they have the resources to do so. You might as well take advantage in this current era. They went and they bought their whole team, right? You have oil billionaires left and right.
Yep.
And they've kind of, at least for, last year, they're going to prove themselves to be a mainstay. Arizona State, we've heard Kenny Dillingham come out in press conferences and say like, hey, we need, why can't we get a billionaire to back us, right? So that's kind of the same issues that a lot of other teams in the Big 12 have been fighting. So I actually talked to Houston's athletic director, I want to say a month ago, and I remember asking him the question, like, okay, you see what this team in Texas is doing, right? In Texas Tech, has that sped up everything else for the other teams in the Big 12? Because they're just spending money and they're going and they're evaluating the players, but most importantly, they're getting them to buy into the culture. And that is something that no other Big 12 team has done. So has that sped up things? And of course, he's going to say the things like, no, we're kind of focused on us, but I'm here to tell you it has. It has sped up things for everybody else in the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree with you, because now you have a team that can compete with the big boys in terms of getting transfers and getting these high school recruits. And you look at how fast Texas Tech has been able to build that roster. It does speed up the clock for everybody else of like, all right, how are we going to compete and give ourselves a chance to go win a Big 12 championship year in and year out. And with Arizona State, they were able to do it 2 years ago, and high expectations heading into last year with the big name quarterback. Levitt was talked about as a first-round pick heading into last year. Jordan Tyson obviously was a top 10 pick this year. Just weren't able to put it all together. I want to move down to the bottom of the conference here, because out of 16 in this USA Today poll, the bottom 4 teams have very interesting coaches or lack thereof. Cincinnati, Scott Satterfield, big year with the Bearcats. They are 13th in this poll. West Virginia with Rich Rod at 14. Colorado with Coach Prime at 15. And then Iowa State, after losing Matt Campbell this offseason, dead last in the preseason
It's
poll.
going to be rough for Iowa State. I mean, they have nobody returning.
I mean, it's tough.
Nobody.
Penn State waited so long to make their hire because they were exhausting every other option. And then they take Matt Campbell, who brings Rocco Becht with him. And it's like they were kind of behind the 8 ball at that point. Iowa State dead last. But how about Coach Prime and Deion Sanders? Like, is the experiment coming to an end out there in Boulder?
Oh, that's a
like I can see both sides of it. Of like, man, you got to a really good point for Colorado football. 2 years ago with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, and they won 9 games that year, correct?
Yep.
But it's also like, man, you've kind of fallen off a cliff. I get it. Coach Prime sells tickets and he gets eyes on your program, but like, is there a point where you've kind of gotten to the point of diminishing returns with Deion Sanders as your head coach?
I think that is probably the best way to put it, because his first year they went 4-8, but he got people talking about Colorado football, which, I mean, let's be honest, Colorado's not exactly a blue blood.
Right.
And then got them to 9 wins and like, oh man, Colorado's about to take off. And then they're kind of returning to the means. A large part of this, kind of hinges on quarterback play. They have Juju Lewis, who was a 5-star, originally committed to Lincoln Riley and USC, flipped, and now is at Colorado. He was a true freshman last year. You can't really expect a whole much. They brought in Caden Salter from Liberty. He wasn't really what they hoped he would be. And they still have some of the same issues that they had 2 years ago, right? The offensive line is awful. And you had a really good piece in Jordan Seaton.
Yep.
But he transferred to LSU. So you gotta bring in these guys, but also at the same time convince them that they need to stay. And Colorado's been living and dying with the transfer portal. Kind of the same story with Florida State and why they've been so bad the last couple of years. So I think maybe a change in recruiting philosophy is needed at Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had an opportunity to capitalize, if you're Colorado, on all of the hype around Deion Sanders, even a year ago when Shedeur Sanders was the talk of draft day, where he keeps sliding, even though that's not good publicity, I guess, but it had eyes on your program. Same with Travis Hunter going 2nd overall. It's like, oh, he's an Iron Man guy. You had all that hype around your team, and you just weren't able to capitalize it. Again, you had Jordan Seaton transfer this offseason. You weren't able to build off of that great team that you had 2 years ago. I'm looking at their depth chart here. There is only one, two. Okay, those guys are freshmen. There is one returning player on this defense, if I'm reading this correctly. Yes. Their defense has 11 new starters, all in the transfer portal, and their 2 deep has almost all starters, 1 true freshman, and 2 returners from last year. That is it. So they have completely overhauled the defense. The offense is mostly transfers too. Is Julian Lewis going to take a big step in his second year? I don't know, but you're relying.
It's hard to with the pieces they have. They don't have the pieces.
You're relying solely on the transfer portal. Now they do have some familiar names on this team. DeAndre Moore, who was with Texas, he's transferred over, the wide receiver now with Colorado. And how about Randon Fontenette, the former Vanderbilt Commodore, is on that defense now. So they've brought Boo Carter is also on that team too. Man.
I actually forgot about that.
Yeah, Boo Carter and Randy Fontenette are both going to be playing for Coach Prime this year.
He is on that team. But I mean, that's what's really, because we learned things the hard way with Florida State. That year that they went undefeated, that team was primarily all out of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
They tried that same philosophy again, and it bit them in the butt, because there's only you're playing roulette every year with the transfer portal.
Right.
That's kind of what Colorado did.
Yeah, I think that was the point that Andrew Allegretti makes a lot to me when we talk about the transfer portal, and this is in baseball, is the example, is LSU with Jay Johnson.
Yes.
He has lived and died through the transfer portal, and it's gotten the team 2 national championships, right? They won in 2023, they won in 2025. But the years in between have not been very good. They missed the tournament completely this year. So it's one of those things where, yeah, if all your transfers end up hitting, you could turn your program around really quick, but it could also completely sink your ship. And with Deion Sanders, the story's gotten a little bit stale. Like, you're not getting any new media frenzy about, oh, look at Coach Prime with Colorado. It's old news. And if they don't start winning again, people aren't going to be paying attention to Colorado just because Deion Sanders is there.
Well, other things have stole the show.
Yeah, right.
This Brendan Sorsby stuff, Lane Kiffin before that, the amount of the coaching carousel. I mean, that all stole the show.
Just in general, Indiana and their growth with Kurt Cignetti.
Probably the greatest story in college football.
Right. So, yeah, Deion Sanders, I think he gave a lot of juice to that Colorado program, but now you're getting picked second to last in the preseason poll for the Big 12. Like, are you at the point where you're not getting enough back for the coaching that you're getting with Deion Sanders? We will see. But the Big 12 going to be an entertaining conference this year. As we talked about, Texas Tech, even without Brendan Sorsby, is the favorite. But that next tier, BYU, Utah, maybe Houston, they could be dark horse teams that could make a run towards the Big 12 title game and possibly a berth in the college football playoff. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We got 30 minutes left in the show, so let's get back to the big story of the day. The U.S. and Belgium squaring off tonight in the round of 16 of the World Cup. We'll continue to preview that game. Will Flo Balogun be out there? Seems like it as of now. We will preview that matchup coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 125 the game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. 30 more minutes left with us on this Monday morning, and we are getting ready for the U.S. and Belgium. Tonight in Seattle, U.S. looking to reach the quarterfinals of the World Cup for the first time since 2002 when they beat Mexico in the round of 16. It is against Belgium tonight, and the big question is, will Flo Balogun play? As of now, the answer is yes. Belgium is appealing, and FIFA has allowed them to appeal. We have not seen any decision on that, at least that I've seen so far. So we are waiting for any final determination of whether he's going to play. But, I mean, again, I said it in the opening hour, the process, you don't really know how this went down. And is this something that would be done for any team? Right. Donald Trump came out today and said that he called Gianni Infantino, the head of FIFA, and basically said, like, hey, you need to review this. And it ends up getting suspended. So I don't know what the process looked like. Is it the right way that it should have been done? Probably not. But I think the result is right, that this shouldn't have been a red card in the first place, and he should be allowed to play. We'll see. Belgium says they're going to fight this as hard as they can.
When has Belgium ever appealed something so publicly like this?
Yeah.
Have they ever? Listen, I don't think they're not going to get this appealed.
I would
they're
say
not going to get this appealed.
It's such short notice and I get it's short notice that they allowed Flo to play too, but
at least it was, 24 hours plus beforehand.
I mean,
they'd have to come to him during on the field warmups and be like, "Hey, you can't play tonight."
Right.
I just don't see that happening.
I don't know. I think we're in uncharted territory here with FIFA, where you're suspending this red card, 36 hours before the game kicks off in Seattle, and Belgium's trying to sneak an appeal in here at the last second. I have no idea how this is going to work out. I had a friend text me and said we should talk about this tweet. Let me find it. It was from Barrett Sally. It says, if the Europeans are mad about this, can you imagine their reaction to college football targeting penalties?
Yes,
we deal with this all the time of like, is there a launch? Did he get him with the crown of his helmet?
Stupid. See, I've always said with targeting in college football that you should have flagrant 1, flagrant 2 type penalties for targeting.
Yeah.
Because it's so ridiculous if it's incidental that the guy can't play the next game.
Right.
I mean, I thought how we've done targeting in college football for the longest time has always been ridiculous.
Yeah.
That certainly needs to be looked at. And I'm surprised it hasn't been.
I do like, at least if you're going to do red cards, couldn't you do it like targeting? And so Flo's red card happened in the second half of that game against Bosnia. How about he just misses the first half tonight? Compromise. Flo can't play
he missed
until
the last 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Against Bosnia.
I agree. They got punished, and it very well could have ended their tournament, right? Like
for something that should have been a yellow card.
The U.S. showed grit. They were able to, Tillman with the great free kick to put them up 2-0, and they played good defense. It ended up working out. But yeah, that red card, just missing him for the final 30 minutes of that game, very well could have ended the U.S.'s run in the World Cup. And it was a bad call. It was a bad call. I don't think anybody can dispute that shouldn't have been a red card. And the way that they reviewed it was wrong. Article 27 is what's being referenced in this suspension of the red card, is that they used the slow motion replay when they shouldn't have. Again, I don't know what the process behind the scenes look like to get to this decision, but I think it's the right decision. I think maybe compromise is the best. Flo can't play until the 45th minute. Boom. He'll be good to go for the second half, and everybody's happy.
Oh, FIFA media just put out something on Twitter about 38 minutes ago, basically just reinforcing what they've already said. So to me,
they filed the appeal yesterday, and they were told to submit all of their evidence and findings of why they feel it should be overturned by 5 a.m. Pacific time today, which is a very short turnaround. So right now they are reviewing everything and deciding whether they need to make a change here. I have no idea.
So it sounds like he's playing tonight for sure.
That'd be my guess, is that he's going to play, because as of now, he is eligible to play tonight. But Belgium is trying to challenge that. I think the U.S. has a good chance to win either way. I really do. The way that this team has played, this is not the same U.S. team we've seen in the World Cup over the past few tournaments. I mean, you look back to 2014 when they lost to Belgium. That was a team that was just trying to hang on for dear life. And it's like, all right, if we can score one, we've got a chance to win. And you were playing as the underdog. I don't think the U.S. is playing with that mindset anymore. I think the U.S. is going in wanting to be the aggressor. We've seen in 3 of the 4 games so far, they've scored within the first 11 minutes of the game starting. They are pushing. And against Bosnia and Herzegovina, had 4 goals. 2 of them were overturned due to offsides, and even had to play the game a man down for the final 30 minutes. This is a different level of soccer team that we have seen for the U.S. than anything we've seen over the past few decades. I mean, century even. So this is a team that should go out and win today against Belgium. Belgium is on the back end of this core's run, this window with De Bruyne and Lukaku. Like, this is not the same Belgium team we faced 12 years ago. And I think that the U.S. should go out and win, whether they have Balogun or not. But you need Christian Pulisic to play his best tonight. You need the back line to stay strong because Belgium is a different tier of opponent than Bosnia and Herzegovina and the teams you saw in the group stage. But I do think the U.S. is the better team with or without Flo Balogun and should win.
Yeah, I picked the U.S. to win slightly without Balogun, and now that he's here, I'm riding the U.S. all the way. Belgium is a really good team, but also, too, aren't they on the back half? Like, they have a lot of older players.
Yeah.
This is the weakest team they've had in, 3 World Cups, I think is what I've been told.
Yeah, that's what Dr. Crane has told us, is this Belgium team, like De Bruyne and Lukaku, like, they're really good players, but they're both old. Lukaku's been like a super sub that they've been bringing in late. He looks exactly like Leonard Fournette, by the way. I don't know if you've seen the
I actually
comparison.
haven't seen him.
I'll show it to you.
I'll have to look tonight.
Yeah, he apparently looks exactly like Leonard Fournette. But still a good team. Like, Belgium, again, is a different level of opponent than what the U.S. has seen so far. But Belgium is not what you're going to see the rest of the way. Like, if things stay chalk, the U.S. would face Spain, France, and Argentina to try and go win a World Cup. Belgium isn't those teams. And so I think the U.S. should win. And again, this is one that they need to go win to prove this is a success on your home turf. You're the last host country standing now after Mexico lost last night. This is a game you've got to go out and win. And then you're playing with house money after that if you get into the round of 8. If you're facing Spain or Portugal or facing France in the semifinals, you're playing with house money.
You're probably going to have to, hypothetically, if you were to win tonight and then beat Spain, you'd have to most likely play France. So,
Yes.
Either way, getting to the quarterfinals, none of us expected the U.S. to get there. None of us.
Right.
So that's a win in itself.
I think the quarterfinals is a success, but if you get past that, like, it's the greatest run the U.S. has ever made. I mean, the last time they were in the Final Four was in like 1930.
Yeah, the 30s.
So they haven't been to the quarterfinals since 2002. They haven't been beyond the quarterfinals in a century. Winning tonight would be a huge step forward for United States soccer. Anything beyond that, no one expects anything from you. You can be the little engine that could. You're basically Cape Verde at that point. Like, no one expects the U.S. to beat France or to beat Spain or to beat Argentina. You go out there and you can play free because you got nothing to lose. Those teams have pressure. Those teams have something to lose, but you got to win tonight, because I think tonight there is pressure on the U.S. to get this done, because with all the good feelings that have been around the U.S. over the last month of this World Cup, and the way you put up 4 goals on Paraguay and you beat Australia and you're singing country roads, all the good feelings about the U.S. men's national team, if you just get bounced in the round of 16 again, I think everybody kind of forgets about that. A win tonight could be a huge step forward long-term for United States soccer.
Yeah, and just like the fans too. I don't recall, and it helps that the World Cup is being played on our home soil right now. But personally, at least I've never felt this way about soccer before. Like, I've been watching as many games as I can, and I've never done that before. So I feel like the fans are all bought in. the last game against Bosnia wasn't like 30 million people who watched.
Yeah, it was.
And I think this game tonight will break that record.
Me too. And Seattle was a great host for the second group stage game against Australia. The crowd was electric.
Oh, tonight it's going to be awesome.
I think tonight's going to be even better. It's it's a 5:00 local time start, so plenty of time to get out of work, get over there. I mean, maybe you have to leave work a little bit early, but for a game like this, it's going to be fun tonight. And I do hope that the U.S. is able to power through, get a win. And then again, you're playing with nothing to lose if you get past tonight, because whoever it is, Spain, Portugal, France, like, you're going to be the underdog. Go be the underdog after that. But tonight you got to take care of business.
That's fine. How awesome would it be to see Ronaldo versus the U.S. though?
Yeah,
that would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Spain's too good, but Ronaldo versus the U.S. in the quarterfinals,
right?
Oh, that would do numbers.
That would do a whole lot of fun. And Portugal was kind of on the ropes against Croatia the other day. So,
right. I mean, anything. France and Paraguay, they went down to the wire. Australia was a penalty kick away from beating Egypt and going to the round of 16.
We've seen tons of upsets in this tournament. The U.S., I don't think they have a chance to win it all. You'd have to play a ridiculous level of soccer in 4 straight games to go win a title from here on out. But I think there's a path to get to the semis for sure. I struggle to see them beating France the way France is playing. I know Paraguay was in it with them for a little bit.
Yeah,
but
I just pull away. Mbappe is too good.
France, Mbappe and Dembele, and I'm blanking on the other guy who's been scoring for them. But that's a ridiculous team, and I struggle to see the U.S. winning that one. But you win tonight. Spain's really good. Portugal's really good, but
I'd much rather be on the other side of the bracket, where you like England and Argentina.
Yeah, so it's England, Norway, Argentina, and then what's the other one?
So
tomorrow?
Argentina plays Egypt tomorrow, and Switzerland and Colombia are still in it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, Argentina, Colombia's good. Colombia's good.
I actually watched their game in Kansas City versus, I think it was Ghana. In the round of 32.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun tonight out in Seattle. It is a 7:00 Central Time kick. U.S. trying to move on to the quarterfinals. We'll take your thoughts. Last call for phones. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got one more segment left with you on this Monday morning. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Wrapping up the show on this reaction Monday. The U.S. and Belgium squaring off in the round of 16 in Seattle tonight, 7 o'clock Central Time kick. And I believe we have a decision on Flo Balogun from Adam Crafton of The Athletic. FIFA Appeal Committee has rendered request by Belgian FA as inadmissible, as Belgium is not a party to the proceedings and as such has no standing to appeal the decision, which means, according to FIFA, Balogun can play tonight. There you go. I don't really understand why FIFA seemed to allow the appeal at first, and then we're like, no, this is inadmissible. But all that matters is it seems like Flo's going to be on the field tonight.
Oh, they would lose so much credibility if they suspend this red card and then, wait, you know what? Belgium's right. We're going to overturn it.
Wouldn't it have just been strange within 24 hours? FIFA was just like, yeah, we changed our mind again. He can't play. So at least as of now, seems like Flo Balogun will be out there. And that's huge because he has been the finisher for the U.S. in this World Cup. Christian Pulisic has been huge at setting up opportunities for the U.S., but in terms of actually putting the ball in the net, it has been Fuller and Balogun who has made those plays. So I'm excited. Full strength U.S., full strength Belgium. Let's see who comes out on top. And I don't want to hear anybody saying that it's tainted or anything if the U.S. wins, because again, it shouldn't have been a red card in the first place. And it's the United States, right? This is not Spain. This is not France, where it's like, oh, how much help does Kylian Mbappe need? This is the United States. They're getting their player back. No one can say it's tainted. You laugh at U.S. soccer all the time, Europe and South America. You laugh about, oh, the U.S. sucks at soccer. Well, guess what? If we win, you can't say it's tainted just because of this.
How many
decision.
SEC championships do you have, Brazil?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, has Belgium ever won an SEC championship?
I don't think so.
Have they ever even made the college football playoff? I mean, if we're going to expand this thing to 168 teams.
They also have no Nathan's hot dog eating contest championship.
Yeah.
Either.
I didn't realize Joey Chestnut was from Belgium.
Yeah. Do you know what's also funny? They're known for their waffles. Belgium has no Waffle Houses either. I just saw that.
That's kind of sad.
Crazy.
Can you really be known for your waffles if you don't have a Waffle House?
Right, exactly. So,
have you bought Belgian waffles for tonight's game?
No. Should I?
Maybe. I think it'd be a good idea. I think I'm considering.
I had a Belgian waffle on Friday morning, and I didn't know if that was good or bad. Like, should you? Is it like?
That's a good question. I don't know.
So like no Belgian beer if you're having a beer with the game tonight. So like what Stella is a Belgian beer, Stella Artois. So I would guess like you probably want to stick with the American ones there. But anyway, looks like Flo going to be available tonight. FIFA has deemed Belgium's appeal inadmissible. 3079 with a great idea says he thinks that we should change Country Roads Take Me Home to Pochettino Take Me Home to the place I belong. I do love how much Mauricio Pochettino has embraced the American way. I mean, singing along to Country Roads, and just the way he's handled himself. I love him. I really hope he sticks around for the long haul.
I do too. I didn't realize it was legal before this tournament that you can have an Argentinian coach coaching the United States.
Yeah, like most coaches, I don't think, not most maybe, but a lot of coaches in this tournament aren't actually the nationality of the team.
That's
coaching.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But no, we have embraced him. And by the way, I think he's a Ella fella. He was listening to Lainey Wilson as well.
Wow.
So he's really adopted the culture.
Yeah.
You gotta love it.
I love it. Go Mauricio.
Pochettino, take me home.
Apparently the appeals are continuing around FIFA though. France have appealed to get Michael Olise's yellow card against Paraguay rescinded.
But the teams aren't allowed to appeal though.
I don't know. Yeah, that's
because
true.
The
U.S. was told that they
this.
weren't allowed to appeal. I don't know.
Apparently, it was Trump that made the phone call to the. I don't know how to say the guy's name.
Yeah, Infantino or Gianni. The issue with this is like, yeah, where do you draw the line? I saw the England head coach said this too. Where's the line? Can you get their players' red card overturned if they make the right call to the right person? I don't know. But I do know that the result is what it should be, that Flo Balogun is on the field tonight. It shouldn't have been a red card. He served his time, 30 minutes at the end of that Bosnia and Herzegovina game. I think it's right that he's going to be out there tonight. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a fun game. I may be not as excited. Obviously, we're getting hyped for the U.S. games the most, but Spain-Portugal is going to be really fun this afternoon.
No, I will have it on. I will be watching that.
I mean, yesterday
Ronaldo versus Spain. This is a rivalry, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, the two countries are right next to each other. Yeah.
Border war, battle for the Iberian Peninsula.
I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah, the Iberian Peninsula.
Now I'll be
right
watching.
there.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, yesterday was great soccer. And I don't know if we'll be able to top the two games that we got yesterday with Brazil and Norway and Holland making those plays at the end. And then, of course, England and Mexico. That was just a mess, but in the best way.
Holland, moose of a man.
I love Erling Haaland. I think he is now, can I say he's my favorite non-U.S. soccer player?
Sure.
I think, yeah.
You're allowed to have one.
Yeah, I was going to say Erling Haaland. I love watching that guy play. He is, I mean, people can't stop him. It's like they denied him the ball as long as they could. He got 2 touches late and scored both times. He is inevitable. So much fun to watch. Norway-Brazil was a great game yesterday.
Did you see there was a video going around. I saw it on ESPN yesterday of Brazil's reaction when Holland scored that second goal. Like they were watching in like Rio de Janeiro. Oh, the heartbreak.
Well, yeah, especially because they got the penalty later.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, like, why did Vinny Jr. not take that PK for Brazil in the first half?
I don't know. I didn't see it live.
Like, why not have, like, Harry Kane takes all the penalties for England.
But he got subbed out yesterday, like in extra time.
Well, they subbed him out because I think they were just like, we're parking the bus and trying to make sure they don't score here. So, but yeah, like Harry Kane takes the penalties for England. I would assume Vinny would anyway. 7410 on the text line says soccer is what the U.S.'s 5th most popular sport. The idea of other countries being upset about FIFA's decision here is more about insecurity that the U.S. is catching up to everyone else. 100%. Other countries are scared that the U.S. might have figured it out in soccer.
Yeah.
I mean, the Olympics, basketball.
I can get with that.
Look at hockey. The U.S. just won the gold medal, stealing Canada's chain. It's like, guess what? They might be here in soccer too. They might.
Everything country.
Yeah, we are an everything country. And I always make the argument that if the U.S. put its resources and its best athletes into soccer, we would wipe the floor with everybody else too. And people don't like that very much. But if we look at the Women's World Cup, the U.S. usually wins the Women's World Cup because our best female athletes play either basketball or soccer. With our best male athletes, it's usually like a split of 6 different sports. So you're not getting, and soccer is downgraded among those. You're not getting the best possible outcome for the U.S. Now, I understand, like, they would have to go through this and start training young, but if you put your best athletes towards soccer, no one could catch the US.
That's what I'm saying. And I've been told it's a very casual thing to say that, but I truly do believe, like, if LeBron James played soccer his entire life.
Right. Or like,
he could do it.
Think of like some of the quick, fast guys you get in, like if Tyreek Hill or like Allen Iverson, like if they grew up playing soccer from the moment they were born and did that their entire life, I think they'd be really good. I think they could be elite. Anyway, go U.S. tonight. USA. Looks like Flo Balogun's going to play. 7:00 kick tonight against Belgium. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. to recap it all. Kevin Ingram joins us at 10 tomorrow. Chasing Big Joe with Nick Frazier and Connor Newt coming up next. You're on 102.5 The Game.